something that it's something to watch out for here today. We welcome you into the sports bar. Streaming online on YouTube and Twitch. Of course, on the Odyssey app for free. We're on 95.7 FM, AM 950. There's plenty of ways you can kind of consume. And, Tim, you got a beautiful brand new monitor right behind you.
Yeah, it's a lot fancier of a studio than it was in the winter. I guess the weather just had to turn, and now we've got the bells and whistles.
We've got the bells and whistles. We've got the game on here today. We've got a busy 4 o'clock hour as there's a couple of things we can talk about here. With Dan Fates. Dan, normally at 325, pushing it back. Why? Just to be safe. He's driving. He's heading to Syracuse tonight for the Game 3, which we can't say. You hope it's a clinching Game 3. You don't want this to go to Saturday. Just get this done. The Amerks tonight, where Game 1, Tim, come from behind win. Game 2, look, it was Levi. It was the Amerks showing that they are the better team. Now, with a few extra days of rest, can they actually get this done here tonight?
I sure hope so. Game 2 probably was the tone setter that Game 1 we probably wanted to be, but if it happens Game 1 or Game 2 and that kind of puts the crunch on their heels, they have to win the next 3 games against a superior team, many say, and that's very hard to do. I think the Amerks get it done tonight and get a week and a half off because the way the playoff schedule is set up, I think it's a minimum 10-day break.
Maybe. So it's funny. Game 5 for Laval Cleveland, if it should go that far, would actually be the same day as Game 5 of Amerks and Syracuse. It's just the fact that the Amerks and Syracuse, for a 5-game series being stretched over 3 weekends, no, they're speeding this up here. I forgot to check who won Laval Cleveland last night.
Laval won 3-2.
Okay, well, that's going to be quick. And, oops, Montreal lost. So
yeah, there they come.
Yeah, there they come. So getting ahead of ourselves. Just take care of Syracuse tonight. We'll talk to Dan Fates about, Elijah Moore, Bills draft, all these things we haven't talked about. It's been a busy week. Brandon Beane showing rare emotion. Rare, unprecedented. I don't think he's ever kind of showed that side to the public. We will talk to Dan Fates coming up at about 4 o'clock today. Later that hour, too, our buddy Andrew Mossbrooks, who will be on the call tonight with the great Don Stevens, as we'll get you set up a little bit more for Amerks hockey. I think Brandstrom's going in the lineup tonight on defense from what I read. We'll get some of those for everybody that really loves your Amerks hockey. What are the lineup changes? What do we know if the lines are out by that point? And we'll get his thoughts here. Syracuse, I've never been to the On Center, Tim. I've seen pictures of it. I've watched the old movie there, Slapshot, but just what kind of atmosphere is that tonight?
It's a different place. It's definitely a minor league arena.
I'm just going to say it's old.
Yeah, it needs some
really
work.
old.
It'll never get the work, and it kind of just deteriorates year by year. I think if you play there, you kind of enjoy it because it's homey. But if you have to go there as a opposing fan, you're not really into it. It's definitely interesting of a setup and a venue.
I wonder how many people, if the Amerks don't get this done tonight, would actually go for Game 4 on Saturday night. I bet there would be a lot. There was a deciding Game 5 years ago where, you could hear the Amerks fans.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool, and that was the year the Amerks went and won the division and in the postseason and actually met up with Hershey. So we will talk to Andrew Mossbrooks coming up next hour. So we're free this hour if you would like to jump in, and with Danger being out, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. So this is just Danger with all of his programming Goombas taking a trip to New York. 2 guys he's with, diehard Met fan. 1 guy is a Phillies fan, and Danger being the Cubs fan. And I'm saying, look, you're going to come away with a new appreciation. I said converted. Let's be honest. He's not listening. He's not going to get converted. But he'll come back and be like, oh, I get it now.
He is living your dream at the moment.
Yeah, it's 2-1 Arizona, by the way, in this game. Yes, I knew this would happen. Zach Gallen is way too good a pitcher for the Diamondbacks. That's the thing with Arizona. Their starting pitching has been like, bleh. Speaking of blah, anybody that's listening that might have gone to the Red Wing game today, hey, the Red Wings are now 6-23 on the season, following today's 8-1 loss to the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs.
That's borderline Colorado Rockies, and that's not really company you want to be around. It's been a tough stretch.
This is 2 years ago. How many? I'd have to look this up. The Red Wings, because nobody kept track of what is the all-time longest losing streak in minor league baseball, and it was above 20, I want to say. It was just like, oh my gosh, can this just kind of end? And then these prospects showed up, and okay, it's minor league baseball. But to me, until the Nationals actually get sold and get a new owner and can kind of just put things in place, this is one of those organizations that maybe they pop every once in a while. You're in Washington. That's the Beltway. Spend some money. Like, what happened? Like, this was a team that won the World Series. Now it looks like so far away. But the thing is, we often say, and it's not bashing on the Red Wings. It's not their fault. You always have a good time when you go out to the game. They certainly manage with the food and the drinks and the promotion that, okay, the team might not be very good, but we got other reasons for you to come out.
Yeah, what the Wings can handle, they do excellently. What they cannot handle, the standings speak for themselves.
Yeah.
But I think, to go back to the question, I think what happened was they won that World Series, and they got theirs, and they packed it in, and now they're just turning it into a profit rather than performance, because they had Soto, Strasburg, Harper, others like Scherzer.
Yeah, like what would
and
a
now they don't.
What would a lineup with Soto and Harper look like?
In today's day, crazy.
Now, you to their credit, they flipped Soto, and one of the pieces they got back from San Diego was James Wood. But is James Wood going to be there in 5 years? I'm thinking no. Thinking not. So, K-Bar Ruiz, he was flipped to the Nationals as part of the Trey Turner trade for the Dodgers.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even mention Trey Turner.
Yeah, right, so Trey Turner was actually there too. So like they had so much talent. Who's the third baseman that was just like, I hate baseball, went to the Angels?
Rendon.
Rendon, yeah.
Everybody's favorite.
Like, can you imagine having God-given talent to play baseball and you hate baseball? And yeah, so he's got all these injuries and he may never step on the field again. But look, that's the difference between football and baseball. Never criticize an NFL player if they want a new deal, because none of them are guaranteed. On the other hand, I really kind of lost my love of the game, and you know what? I'm going to wait on my surgery, and I'm going to miss the whole year. That's the power of the Players Union in Major League Baseball. Perdomo with a homer for the Diamondbacks. I'm keeping extra tabs on this today. I just knew it that, it would be a day where, beautiful day, and the Mets would lose. That's the way it's looking right now. Top of 7 as that Met bullpen has been taxed. Of course, you come to the sports bar to talk some Buffalo Bills, and the timing is always impeccable when you came in. Now, let's put a pin in right now on the Browns draft. Because
sure.
You are the guy to do
course.
that. But you have this other storyline where, look, there's two sides to every story. And the side that we're all believing in, here's a 25-year-old receiver drafted by the Jets who has, how do I say this? He worked his way out of New York because he was bitching about targets, right? And the Jets were like, okay, fine, we're gonna flip you to Cleveland. And the time when they traded him, the Jets are 5-2. They're feeling good about themselves, but Cleveland giving up a second-round pick, the Jets investing a second-round pick, and now here we are in year 5, and you look at somebody like 25 years old. Look, if you went into the draft this year and you said, hey, here's a receiver, here are all the traits, you would say, that's a pretty good pick for investment for a third rounder. Oh, by the way, unveil. It's not. He's not really a college player. This is a guy who's been in the league 4 years. Oh, So this begs the question, Tim. If he's so good, why did Cleveland let him walk out the door?
As mentioned on how he got out of New York, attitude probably plays a factor into it. Cleveland is in a much different spot than Buffalo, where they've got 5 quarterbacks, which means they have no quarterbacks. They've got guys in the receiving room that are trying to make a name for themselves, and more. He was offered whatever the free agent tender or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So the Browns did kind of say, like, stick around if you want to, but he didn't.
Which, that's always a tricky thing, right? Because this wasn't the franchise tag. There's another level of tender here. And it's always a tricky thing when you're holding somebody against their will. This is why you haven't to this day seen Brandon Beane slap the franchise tag on somebody. I want to say Corey Glenn might have been the last guy, but that predates Brandon Beane, where the Bills were like, okay, franchise tag. But this wasn't it. But to the point where, like, okay, you want to be gone, go. What I like about this too is, sure, you're going to see it. Hey, it's up to whatever six. Whenever you see the phrase "up to," we're waiting on what this is actually costing the Bills.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it's 1 year. Joey Bosa, 1 year. Elijah Moore, 1 year. The Bills are in a good position, Tim. This is what I never dreamt that could happen here in West New York, where you don't have to overpay. Mario Williams, you had to sign a record deal toward. So, to me, doesn't this kind of just squelch all the talk of, oh my gosh, the Bills didn't draft a wide receiver?
I don't know if it squelches it or intensifies it because of how quickly after the reaction it came that they brought him in. But I think that they had probably always had guys like Elijah Moore targeted and knew that they didn't necessarily need to use draft capital on doing it when they can get a young, somewhat proven guy on a prove-it deal. And it costs them next to nothing. It's a 1-year thing. If it works out, you keep him around. If it doesn't, see you later. They've got a bunch of other guys in Buffalo now that have to do similar with Chanot and Shaver. There's guys on this roster that are going to be competing for those last of the 53 from the receiver position.
You said Shaver. I'm like, oh gosh, that's coming up, right? We're less than 3 months away from, boy, Shavers look really good. Boy, Terrell Shavers, he's the guy.
It's coming.
And Laviska Shenault, I forgot, he's here too. Sure, they're going to have competition. We learn things here in the sports part too. We don't know everything, right? And we're talking sports. It's not that serious. Here's the one thing I learned today. Have you ever heard of the Streisand effect, Tim?
I'm sure that if I saw it, I'd be familiar with it.
Okay,
but I know who that is, yes.
Yeah, we know Barbara Streisand. And what is it has nothing to do with her singing The Way We Were or being in a movie or whatever it is. No, it's this. And look, there's got to be some other, name for this phenomenon, but that's the only thing. And you come up with is the Streisand effect. Barbara Streisand owns this beautiful, or did at the time, beautiful piece of property in Malibu. And the story was about erosion. And you could see her house and the yard in front of the house up against this beautiful cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean, and you could see the erosion. So from an invasion of privacy standpoint, I don't think I would want my home kind of showcased like that. I understand her viewpoint on that. Like, I don't want this online, but then you're a celebrity, right? Like, it's not that hard in this day and age. But what she did, Tim, was she sued everybody who ran a photo of that. The photo wasn't about her home. The photo was about the erosion. But
right.
Here you have Barbara Streisand suing publications, suing photographers, suing anybody online. And they're like, well, what is this about? And where she wanted privacy, that was the only reason. Guess what she did?
Drew more attention.
She drew more attention to it. So in that sense, okay, Brandon Beane is sitting on hold with WGR, okay? And again, the disclaimer, I think most folks know, that's also our company. We are friends with Jeremy White and Joe on that show, or as Jeremy's been renamed, Jerry White. And it was just kind of it wasn't even real criticism. It was like, hey, you brought in these guys for wide receiver. Is this kind of still the need? It's nothing overly critical. And when Brandon Beane came out and couldn't bite his tongue, and what goes back to this is 2018 all over again. Whoa, 2018, you're talking about Josh Allen versus Josh Rosen? Okay, I thought we were past that. Hey,
People
I was
don't
stupid.
forget.
Yeah, honestly, okay, yeah, we got that wrong. You got that right, Brandon. Yeah, kudos to you. And but if he said nothing, or he just conducted the interview and then afterward off the air, because look, if anybody calls you off the air in this business, we take the call.
Right.
You absolutely take the call. But that wasn't on. That's what made this rare. It's the Streisand effect. Absolutely. Like, Brandon Beane put a big spotlight on, do the Buffalo Bills have enough at the wide receiver position? oh, maybe they don't. Let's bring in Elijah Moore. And again, would I've liked to have the guy from Missouri that the Bears picked up in the second round? Yeah, absolutely. Luther Burden, his name is. Or Royals, the guy that Kansas City took. Okay, those are guys that you brought in that would have been cheaper, and you could have brought them under cost control. You don't know what you're getting. At least with Moore, okay, if things work out, it's going to cost you a little bit more, and he has the ability to walk out the door in 2026, but
yeah, there's a baseline there
Yeah.
now that like he is a 4-year NFL veteran with legitimate NFL numbers. And his ceiling might be a number 3 or a low number 2, but with guys that you're bringing in that have to take 2 or 3, 4 years to develop, you're spending that time and that priority on getting these guys to where Moore already is. I would spend that extra money to get a guy that will contribute from day one.
Yeah, to me, some would say that's still the number one area need for the Buffalo Bills, the wide receiver position. And to think that, boy, can this Bills defense replicate what they did last year? And I would say, are they going to need to score 40-plus points to win some of these games like they did last year? Last year down the stretch, the defense was bad. Why is it a bad thing that, okay, you need more competition? And they got it. They really got it in the secondary. They really have it in the defensive line. Who's going to pop? I have no idea. That's what we have training camp for, Tim. Or even the mini camps coming up. That's what's going to make this fun. Like, tell me which of these defensive linemen, of these youngsters, is actually going to step up on day one. Is it Landon Jackson? Is Landon Jackson going to bump A.J. Epinesa off the roster? Would that force maybe a trade where you can kind of do, like Brandon Beane has traded veterans before. He's traded younger guys before. So this 90-man roster in May 1st, 2025, is better than it was May 1st, 2024. True or false?
True.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
True, and there's a lot of things to be. Last year was supposed to be the drop-off. Last year, a lot of teams, or a lot of people now, a year ago now, thought that the Bills could possibly, which is silly to think about in retrospect, but they had them third in the division to some people. Now, they're pretty clearly the one, and they're better now than they were a year ago, where they already were the one.
Yeah, it's why, like, Mike Clay put out something last night. Perino retweeted saying that, with more signing, could Curtis Samuel be in trouble? I'm going to say that that's not the case. Like, if you just looked at Curtis Samuel's numbers last year, overall, there's a drop. But then you realize, no, yes, he was active. He had turf toe. Once he got healthy, he was productive down the stretch. He had a really nice touchdown in a playoff game against Denver. I'm only bringing up Mike Clay because, the Jets winning the Super Bowl last year.
But of course, and that went swimmingly well, and look at him now.
So we could talk about that. We could certainly talk about the Amherst, and our lines are open at 866-4FAN, 866-4326, as I've yet. If anybody sees danger on TV, let me know. Once we get going, Tim, in the show, I get distracted. By distracted means I don't pay attention to the game.
Right.
I'm like, it's 3-1 now, and it's in the top of the eighth. So down there in Queens, he's going to some steakhouse tonight too. But they were trying to get into this really ritzy one. So I'm not sure.
I'm jealous. I mean, I'll be working the Amherst game, so I'll be having my own fun. But I could go for a steak.
Well, and then the other thing too, and I want because what is the best way to fly in terms of time and value, and in terms of time and money going into New York? Because Danger swears, and it might be true, he did Newark, which, okay, by airfare, yes, that's true. However, you're not in the city. So how much does it actually cost for you to get in the city with whatever ride share? Or, I don't know. I've never done that. I've done JFK, and JFK has the shuttle. You could pay a lot and get in a cab there or an Uber. LaGuardia certainly being the closest. I don't know. That's another question we can throw out to the audience, because I'm curious, because Danger's like, I got a really good deal, which is great, but how much did it actually cost from you to get from Newark all the way into the city?
Right. The last couple times I've gone down, I've taken the train, which is time-consuming, but it's definitely affordable, and I hate flying, so I'll take a 6-hour train. It takes the same to drive, and I don't have to be the one driving it. So
I have done them all. This is the one I like to drive. And usually I'll stay, somewhere outside in Westchester, and then where you can park down there if you had to, or you actually just take the Metro North. And
always something going on, too. So
always something going on. Dan Fate, Andrew Mossbrook's coming up next. Tim, I want to talk more draft. It was a good draft.
Sure.
If we're still talking about this story out of Cleveland today, though, okay? No, it's actually kind of a good thing. I'll explain. If you were going to say Shedeur Sanders would be the opening day quarterback, today was step one. I'll explain what happened today in Cleveland. My name's Gene Battaglia. I'm always here, practically. Tim Schneider. You're always here, but not in this hour.
That's right.
Yeah, Danger is down in New York. Time for your calls next at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. You're on the Fan Rochester. Hockey tonight, it's the Amerks looking to advance past Syracuse. Head coach Mike Leone knows it's going to be a tough atmosphere.
I don't expect anything different. Great crowd, really tough arena to play in. We know what's at stake, so we just got to be ready to go when the puck drops.
Don Stevens and Andrew Mossbrooks will have your call tonight, beginning at 7 here on the Fan Rochester. On the Major League scoreboard, Arizona has gone up on the Mets 3-1 as they are in the 8th. Juan Soto with a homer for New York. Reds are up on the Cardinals 2-1 in the bottom of 4. Kansas City up on Tampa Bay 7-2 in the 8th. Guardians up on the Twins. They are in a rain delay in Cleveland. That is in the 7th. Their score there 2-0. Red Wings losing at home today 8-1. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester. Tim, you made it, buddy, because for the first time on the YouTube stream, we are correctly identifying you, Tim Schneider.
Wow, Danger's got to feel so blessed to no longer be confused as me on this stream.
That's it. What is the believe? I don't get the T-shirt there. What is
it's just my favorite band is Valencia, and it's just one of their phrases. And I mean,
gotcha.
It fits in with the Amerks and believing that they're gonna make a run to the cup, but it just matches. And
it's a nice Amerk hat you got.
Thanks.
On the.
I got this for I think $3 on Fan Appreciation Night in like 2012.
Wow.
It is aged and weathered.
That is aged and weathered. Yeah, so tonight, we'll talk next hour. Andrew Mossbrooks will join us from Syracuse, also on his way to Syracuse. We'll talk some Bills, but we'll certainly pick the brain of the former hockey player himself. Section 5 legend Dan Fates will join us. Time for your calls this segment. If you should choose 866-4FAN, 866-4326. You can write to us on X. Gosh, Tim and I, we're accessible, whether it's, Facebook, which I call Wastebook because I'm wasting my time looking at that half the time.
Spacebook.
Yeah, exactly. Or the disclaimer I always say, Tim, is, hey, I'm doing a show. I can't look at, the immediate gratification for what is said here on X. Peter writing in, hey, Odyssey, let's do the right thing. Send Gene to a Mets game. He's the hardest working guy in Rochester. Well, Peter, the last part's not true, but I appreciate that. And just for the record, I was mistaken about this. Ooh, Soto just homered again. 3-2. Distracted. Ooh,
back
shiny,
in it.
Shiny object. Just for the record, Danger paid his way down there. This was not their Odyssey tickets, so the tickets were free, but Danger and the expenses, this was not but he had the opportunity to catch up with some friends there and to see Soto homer twice. Now see, Tim, if the Mets pull this out, say, in the bottom of the 9th, will this convert Mike Danger, or at the very least, give him a newfound appreciation for New York City baseball?
I think we are walking into a trap where Dan Fates calls us and Soto or Alonso or Vientos ends this game in the 9th inning with him on air, and it will be absolutely glorious. Very exciting.
Jay Binkley is listening. Thanks, Jay. On the Odyssey app, Gene talks about 2015. I do not talk about 2015. Jay, of course, being from Kansas City, and in addition to him waving his Chiefs flag in front of our face, he's waving his Royals flag, which I would say, this, Jay, is there a bigger aberration than the 2015 Royals? And seriously, the Royals today, hey, you've got Bobby Witt Jr. and you made the postseason. That's as good as it's going to get.
You could argue that the 2015 Mets were a bigger aberration than 2015 Royals.
Okay, that's your first terrible take right there. That is terrible take. That was a team that had DeGrom, Syndergaard, and the Dark Knight, which sounds crazy right now, but Matt Harvey was a big thing last decade.
Cespedes. I mean, that 15 team, both of those, that Royals team was good too. You had Rizzo. Not Rizzo.
Lorenzo Cain.
Oh God, I'm blanking. Actually, yeah, no.
Mountcastle, yeah. They were scrappy guys, but they didn't really have
their pitching stunk.
Yeah, I'm how did they get to the? Well, I look at this and we'll get to football here in a second, but the idea that, hey, you have the American League where you have these teams like the Yankees and the Astros and it's early. It's May 1st. But so far, the better teams clearly are in the National League. Dodgers, even though the Dodgers don't have the best record, the Giants, the Padres, the Mets, yes, the Phillies, the Cubs. And then who's coming out of the American League?
The Yankees, and that's about it. It seems. I mean, the Central's a mess. It's going to beat themselves up, and the White Sox are in it. The East is going to beat themselves up in the other way, and I'm not sure what is going to happen with the Orioles because the way that they started has been pretty crazy.
Yeah, they're not very good. There's a couple ways I could see the American League going. Well, many. I mean, you could say, okay, it's going to be the Yankees back there. They find a way. They made it last year. Houston, you could never discount. The team out of the Central, it's not the Guardians, but just the idea that they have pitching, if they decide to add a few pieces, Detroit. Like, if you get in a series with Detroit, I just wouldn't want any part of that. So, again, a little baseball talk here on a
Nobody's separating themselves.
No.
It's like 12 teams that can find themselves in the mix. Granted, it's May 1st, but 12 teams that consider themselves a contender right now, and then you've got the Angels and the White Sox doing what they do every year.
Our phone number, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Oh, boy, Danger's just texting me now. Oh, he's look at this. I'll
Real time, live action.
I'm showing this for everybody on the he's
that is the Soto trot.
Yeah. So is Danger going to call in today? Where would I put the odds?
With a walk-off victory, I think he might.
I'm going to guess no. Winker, fly ball, deep left center. It's over the head. Oh, I shouldn't do play-by-play on the air. All right. So, anyways, I can't do that. I can't tell you whether
score the run.
Nope. So, how did it not score the? Well,
one out, and
yeah,
they might have caught it.
Yeah. Well,
and Alonso doesn't know how to run from second to third because his legs aren't attached to his body. If you saw that the other day, that was insane.
No, he's like one bad step away from popping a hammy and being out for 3 weeks. Okay, and gosh, I say that I'm not to will it into existence. Boy, Winker. Did you know Winker's from Buffalo? Too?
I did, but I don't think he spent. I think it's very similar to your El Paso. So. I think he was just there.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't count. You consider yourself a Rochester guy, not an El Paso guy.
That's it.
And I think that's probably similar to Winker because I know that he grew up in Florida, but he was born in Buffalo.
When I'm watching Alonso run, it's like, ooh. Like, okay. You can't take him out of the lineup, right? For a pinch runner probably would have scored there. Yeah, so more of your calls here, 866-4326. Tim, you were with me on Saturday. So if you're not familiar with our station, we, on Saturdays, we've had this long partnership with St. John Fisher University, and we're grateful for that partnership, and we're going to have a lot of fun this Saturday, Tim. That'll be the doubleheader Empire 8 Championships.
Collecting trophies.
Yeah, I mean, Fisher should win. If the women win, they should be able hosting NCAA. I would figure the men would go on the road, but getting, like the Amherst, don't want to get ahead of ourselves. The point of the story is this. You and I spending last Saturday, Fishermen up big on Hartwick, but, it's the NFL draft. So we're calling a lacrosse game, and meanwhile, Tim is updating everybody on the draft. And never, ever, ever did I think I would be heading to Groundy Stadium on a Saturday morning expecting, oh, my gosh, Shedeur Sanders is still not drafted. Friday, Tim, I came to the conclusion, this was the conclusion, that if the Browns traded down and you passed on Shedeur, I didn't think the Browns would use everybody's like, the Browns will use one of their second-round picks on Shedeur. I'm like, no, they didn't. I thought the Browns actually cleaned up in this draft. Even though it's a weird draft, you really shouldn't draft 2 quarterbacks. Drafting 2 running backs. I like the tight end from Bowling Green. Seeing that the executive producer went to Bowling Green, I watched a few of their games. But to me, that seems kind of like it was a great draft, even though you had a chance at getting a generational talent in Travis Hunter, and you passed on that.
Yeah, I'm really satisfied with how it played out because I wanted Mason Graham over Hunter and Sanders, and to get Sanders that late, it's no risk at this point. I mean, he might be a headache, but you just tell him to shut up. He's a 5th-round pick, and he means nothing to anybody yet. And the bringing in Dylan Gabriel on top of that, kind of strange. But I think that there's like a it's not a conspiracy theory. Maybe it is. There was something going around in NFL circles that were like Shedeur Sanders was deemed to be undraftable by multiple teams, but even the ones that kept him on their board like knew that he was going to drop and drop and drop. Maybe not to where he did, but like to get him in the 5th round instead of the top 5 overall, I can't hate on that.
No, and again, this is going to be the weirdest quarterback battle, but when you drafted Gabriel and now you're putting Sanders on top of that, okay, let's kind of push aside interviews and all that stuff just between the lines as a football player. How can you make the case that Gabriel's better than Sanders? Here's what the payoff on the tee is, because hey, this started today in Cleveland. It did. Where Shedeur Sanders went to school right in the city, and he's talking to kids, and he's signing autographs, and he's doing. That's not a big thing. No, he's there. He's investing in the city. He's showing. He's doing mature things, and he's giving back a little bit. You really, what can you do other than that on May the 1st? To me, that's a good step in the right direction for Shedeur today.
Yeah, again, he did so much harm to him in the interview process. You don't go 144 overall as a top 3 talent if you are that talented without some missteps along the way. And if the first way to fix it is a little PR bandaging, then have at it. And what he's doing now is what he probably always should have done. But now as a 5th round pick, you have to become an asset to your teammates, your city, and you have to show that you belong there, because in the 5th round, you're an expendable asset. You don't need to be around for this team to succeed.
But this is not a typical 5th rounder.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. And what the Browns should do, now you can make the case that if they get good quarterbacking play, okay, this is a team that, why not contend for the 7th seed? But I would say this, Tim, that you were in a prime position next year with those 2 first-round picks to maybe get a quarterback that's even better. Do not waste a single meaningful rep with Kenny Pickett and certainly not Joe Flacco. Okay, let the 2 rookies duke it out. Let them, and maybe September's kind of ugly, but I would think that most Browns fans might be kind of down with that. Let's see what we have with the kids here, because if it's apparent and you get to December, I think the world has kind of changed when it comes to the quarterback position. You should be able to say, okay, does this guy have pocket presence? The Mets don't score. I can't believe it. After all that, do they have pocket presence? Do they do the things? How are they after a tough loss? How do you kind of regroup and overcome adversity? There's a lot of things you can learn in a rookie season. And if you're getting positive vibes, then you give it another shot. But if it's clear that, okay, we invested 2 mid-round picks, no big deal, let's try this again. I'm surprised more teams don't do this, Tim. And probably the reason, show me the list of late-round guys that pop. And in the video, and I give him credit for at least saying, hey, it was Trey Wingo. And probably Trey misses this. Probably he misses the action. But Trey Wingo then, citing all these great quarterbacks from Kurt Warner and everybody else, can we stop, please, citing Tom Brady as being you could find a quarterback in the late rounds? You know why? That was 25 years ago.
Kirk Cousins, Brock Purdy.
25.
That's the list, I think.
Yeah, 25 years ago. And even so, Brock Purdy, it's like it worked because of the system. Kirk Cousins, okay, that's the example of, okay, we value him high.
And that was they drafted RG3 first that year.
Yeah, so that's I would say just try again with that. I am pro Shedeur. I want him to succeed in this league. I think the league would be great for that. And I don't think it's as simple as he blew off a few interviews. If his talent was superior, you're still drafting him. I can work with that.
Yeah,
guy.
you deal with that headache if it is a headache worth dealing with. But when you maybe don't possess all the skills that you claim to have, and you've got an attitude to boot,
yeah,
you're falling where you're falling for a reason. But that said, it's quite the conundrum, because if this does work out, it benefits Cleveland. And when is the last time Cleveland has benefited from anything football-wise for this to play out in their favor. If he comes out and is a legitimate first-round talent drafted in the 5th round, that means they got him way cheaper. They succeeded, and now they have money that they can put elsewhere other than the whole Deshaun Watson thing. But I'm excited to see how this plays out. I hope he works out as Browns fan, but if it doesn't, at least there's entertaining aspects of that like they passed on him 5 times and they just couldn't pass on him a 6th, and he still bit them in the ass. Like I'm excited to see not the hard knocks aspect of it, but just there's so many moving parts to this quarterback room in Cleveland that it's going to be fun.
Really, it shouldn't be, though. It should be which rookie's better. You're the better rookie. You start. You're not going to go anywhere with Joe Flacco.
Oh, I know. We did.
Okay.
Well, we went to the playoffs and it was fun.
It was fun, okay, but that's not the objective.
No, not anymore.
And you're not going to go anywhere with Kenny Pickett. Now, the moving part, okay, it's yesterday we were joined by Rochester native Spencer German, who was 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland, and this lingering issue, what about the quarterback who's actually getting paid? So Deshaun Watson, to kind of recap the story there, he tore his Achilles again. Nobody wishes that on anyone.
Darn.
But he could be healthy by the end of this year. And by the rule by the CBA, Tim, if he's healthy, you can't just stash him on IR for the rest of the year as the Diamondbacks. I see you looking up. I can't say what just happened. This is not
Tim Tower.
They've got a few players on this team. Doesn't Arizona feel like the year they went to the World Series? Even though that division is just really, really loaded, I'm like, as soon as they get their pitching straightened out.
Corbin Carroll and Zach Gallen are superstars.
You're getting me distracted.
Sorry.
So,
yeah.
yes.
Tell us more about Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson's going to come back in December. What happens then?
He has to come off IR and he doesn't have to play, but he has to be on the roster.
You'll have to open up a roster spot for him, and he will go away. He will be game day inactive. He will never be on the field, but I think it's just going to be a paperwork thing.
Oh, yeah.
At that point.
Brock Osweiler reincarnated with a different set of ailments.
It's funny. Tim, I always thought until they're going to give this guy another chance.
No.
They're going to get based on one game. The one game in my mind, wow, he went into Baltimore and won as a Browns quarterback. That was a lot of fun. He made plays that game, thinking, all right, maybe this will work out after all. But no, it is going to be the worst contract, the worst trade in NFL history. I don't think there's any denying.
And I was right at this microphone when it happened too. It is something that is ingrained in my memory forever. That entire trade, the entire ordeal. We knew it was going to be bad when it happened, and boy, were we right.
Got reports of a name change coming up from the National Hockey League. Finally, we might have some news out of Utah. Well, let's take a quick break. We've got our guy, Dan Fates, who's out in Syracuse, or actually on his way to Syracuse. Andrew Mossbrooks is already there in Syracuse. So we're going to be going out talking to the Lammers in Syracuse next hour. Take a quick break. 866-4FAN, 866-4326 here on The Fan. Welcome back to Sports Bar. Gene Battaglia with you. Mike Danger down in New York. Having a, can't say guys' weekend, just the guys' start to the weekend.
Guys Thursday.
Yeah, guys Thursday. Which, hey, if you get the chance to do it, by all means. We got Dan Fates coming up from Syracuse in just a little bit, as well as Andrew Mossbrooks. Tim, one of the stories here in the NHL, so this time last year, the Coyotes were still in Arizona. It was kind of like a clunky move last second. They moved to Utah. By the way, I didn't realize this. Do you know, like, the actual capacity for that arena wasn't it like 18 because it didn't actually fit? And I remember watching this in the Sabre game because the seating configuration, they're going to remodel that arena in Utah and make it, configured for the NHL. So there you go. But are they sticking with the Utah Hockey Club? There has been no official announcement, but there are a lot of breadcrumbs online now to support this. Wyshynski and others saying, yeah, this is going to be happening. Any guesses what Utah is going to be called moving forward?
I already know the answer, but I can spoil it if you'd like.
No, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
The Utah Mammoth.
Yeah.
Which
The logo's cool, though.
I haven't seen the logo.
It's a combination of a woolly mammoth and the Colorado Rockies. So, like, the Rockies are the face of the mammoth, and then there's the big tusk, too. It's pretty neat.
Are they sticking with the colors?
The color scheme is the same from what I saw. And I don't know if that's official either, but what I saw was a very cool looking logo.
I mean, I think we all would have loved to seen Utah Yeti as being the example, but the NHL and the Yeti Cooler Company couldn't come to an agreement. So, like, apparently that was the first choice.
That was funny to me when I saw it too, because how do you confuse a hockey team for a cup? But I mean,
no, but I own the trademark. Yeah, I own the trademark. And for that matter, like, we have the Colorado Mammoth. It's the lacrosse team. And, like, I can picture that. And, like, the tooth is the M coming out there. And, all right, but maybe that's the difference between the National Hockey League and the National Lacrosse League, where, okay. Like,
yeah, you guys can share, but we're keeping ours, I guess. I don't know exactly. Like, Vegas there's a bunch of Golden Knights that are out there.
Well, the Golden Knights, it's funny you brought that up, because the Golden Knights, for a brief second there, because the trademark was owned actually by the U.S. Army.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, are they going to actually – and they actually came to an agreement or whatever they did. So that was probably the smart thing. Like, who's going to confuse that? I don't think it was – Golden Knights, I'm thinking, like the neon and everything, but the Knights spelled with a K. Okay, that's a little bit different there in Vegas. So
yeah, the Utah Mammoth, it doesn't really do much for me, but the logo is cool.
How many nicknames are similar in – I'm going to see if I can name everything off the top of my head. Ready? You've got the Giants, New York and San Francisco, in different sports, used by the same thing. You've got the Giants. You've got the Cardinals, certainly.
Rangers.
Ooh, that's a good one. Giants, Cardinals, Rangers.
Kings.
Is that it? I think that's it.
I believe that to be it. At least professionally. I mean, there's
right, but
college-wise.
College-wise, oh my gosh, there's how many Wildcats or whatever?
Panthers. Did we say Panthers? Carolina.
Oh, that's a good one. Because the Florida Panthers name, because I didn't know that until they were named. There's actually a Panther that prowls around in Florida. Okay, so we came up with 5.
There's a handful.
All right, we came up with 5. But I don't think the Mammoth count, because for some, we don't value lacrosse in a major league, even though if we did, be like, wow, we got a major league team here in Rochester, which, the Nighthawks, if you missed it, that kind of sucked. Like, did you stay up for that Saturday night?
No, I just remember, like, speaking it into existence on air on accident last week. Is like, oh, yeah, like, hopefully they get it done, because if they don't, that's a long trip home to end their season. And then their season ended, and that's a long trip home.
That was that. We've got Dan Fates coming up from Syracuse coming up next. Mike Danger's off today. He is Tim Schneider. I'm Gene Battaglia here on The Fan, Rochester. Hockey tonight. Amherst in Syracuse. Rochester up 2-0 in the best of 5. Goaltender Devin Levi, the Amherst says, there's no secrets left between these two.
We're ready for that. Like they know everything about us. We know everything about them. It's just, who's got better pre-scout. So it's been good. It's been fun. They obviously know we're a highly skilled team, and we know that they like generating, second chances off of tips and rebounds and screens.
Don Stevens, Andrew Mossbrooks will have your call at 7 o'clock here tonight in the Fan Rochester. On the Major League scoreboard, they go to the bottom of the ninth. The Mets trailing Arizona by a 4-2 score. Finals from today, the Cubs over the Pirates 8-3. Royals over the Rays by an 8-2 score. Reds are up on the Cardinals 5-1 in the 7th. The Red Wings get thumped at home 8-1 to Lehigh Valley. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
We are back here on the Sports Bar. Tim Schneider with you, Form Like Danger. Gene Battaglia grabbing Dan Fates. I believe we are ready to go.
Tim, great job, boy.
How's that?
That's it today.
On the fly.
Dan, isn't this weird? You're heading to Syracuse. Danger is at a Mets game wearing an Amherst hat just so, like, if he gets on TV, we all know it's him today representing. I mean, the only thing odder than him going to a Met game is actually you going to a Met game.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of Mets games just to see the Braves beat the Mets because it's a pretty close ballpark to go to. But, yeah, it's a little strange.
A little strange. You're on your way to Syracuse. We'll talk about the Amherst and the crunch here in a little bit. But Dan, always appreciate your time on a Thursday. And, gosh, so much has happened since we last talked. Just kind of, I'll start open-ended here. Your overall takes here on what the Buffalo Bills did in the 2025 draft.
Yeah, I think we talked about leading into the draft when I was up there in Buffalo. Like I expected them to go corner, defensive tackle. I expected them to add an edge rusher and kind of address the defense. I think I even said I expected it to probably be 60-40. It was 6 out of the 9 picks were on the defensive line. I was just surprised by the pick of Maxwell Harrison, and that doesn't mean that I'm sitting here saying that he's not going to be good or any of those things. All I'm saying is that the one thing I crossed off about him was one of his concerns is tackling, his liability as one of the scouts I read in the running game. So, I was a little bit surprised. I'm happy they added speed. But all in all, the only other thing that I would take away, I love the moves on the defensive line. I love adding Dwayne Walker as a large, massive human being. I guess I'm just a little bit surprised they didn't add a wide receiver before the 7th round.
Yeah. Well, they did, I guess. I said this earlier, Dan. If Elijah Moore went in this draft and he was the 3rd or 4th round and you said, okay, he's 21, instead he's 25, we'd all be like, okay, I can't wait to see him. I'm excited about Moore and what he could do, but then part of me thinks, well, then why did Cleveland just kind of let him walk out the door? Is always that, right?
Yeah, I always try and think about that in both ways, right? I always try to think about, was the player at his former team underutilized? Was there quarterback issue problems? Was the offensive coordinator not good? All of those things. But then you also have to understand that the fact of the team that knows him most recently and had him in their building was totally fine with him leaving. And that's part of it. And I don't know how much you guys have talked about, the Brandon Bean on WGR and kind of that bit of it. But we had Jeremy on the Buffalo Plus podcast on Monday to kind of discuss, are a little bit of surprise about the fact that they haven't really addressed the wide receiver position once again. We said, I joked around with you guys last week about I'm not ready to get my heart broken again and get my hopes up that they're going to address something for wide receiver. But you talked about Elijah Moore for up to $5 million, whatever it is. If you would have gotten Elijah Moore, like in your theory, in this draft, and he was 21 and you got him in the 3rd or 4th round, he would cost a tenth of what he's getting paid. Bean talks so much about it, and I understand that's his job, is to understand balancing the cap. And I may not think it's real, and I may say there's tons of loopholes, and Beane's really good at it. But drafting wide receivers is also good business because it's the second most highest paid position in the NFL. And Brandon Beane has spent a second-round pick, a fourth-round pick, a fifth-round pick, and after that, it's a bunch of sixth- and seventh-round guys that don't really pan out. So you're sitting there going, well, like, it's good business to draft lots of wide receivers because if one of them hits, it's very cheap at the position.
On the flip side of that, if I was presenting as a lawyer for Beane, three times he has spent his first-round pick on a receiver. Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, and look, and Steph Diggs was a first-round pick you had to flip for, so that, and it worked, and it was really great until it wasn't. I guess my question here, Dan, is the answer already on the roster? Because if one of these two guys steps ahead, whether that's Coleman or Kincaid, how different can this Bills offense be? Or am I wishing for too much that actually, you know what, maybe these guys, this is the best it's going to get?
Yeah, Gene, that's a great question. And permission to be slightly pessimistic and snarky?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
For sure.
So I would say to that is that we walked out of the draft last year and I said, man, I thought they would draft 3 wide receivers. And they ended up with Keon Coleman. And we all said there, like, hey, there's no Diggs. But Keon's going to develop over time, and he may not be good right now, but he's going to develop. And we also heard last year at this exact same time that Dalton Kincaid was going to take a step forward and that he was going to be a focal point of the passing game. Fast forward to today, we are being told that Keon Coleman is going to develop and Dalton Kincaid will evolve and develop into a key point of the passing game. What if those things don't happen? Because we're kind of running it back with what it is, and that's a concern to me. I don't think that makes me some Beane hater to say that. I think he's done a phenomenal job. The defense 100% needed to be addressed. But a fifth-round blocking tight end, I don't see a ton of value in that. And he made moves to go up. And other teams like Royals going to Kansas City and the Packers taking a ton of wide receivers when they already have wide receivers because it's such an important position. And I understand the hope of Keon and Dalton, and I understand that. We've just now been hoping for the last 2 years, and it's an okay wide receiver room. I really don't have a thought on Elijah Moore, Gene. Like, if Curtis Samuel wasn't on the team, I'd say, oh, cool, Elijah Moore can do this and that. But you're already paying Curtis Samuel a good bit of money to do what I think a lot of what Elijah Moore does, or what you're hoping Curtis Samuel can do. So, again, it's a lot of guys, and we're still trying to find somebody to play consistently on the outside because your best wide receiver in the AFC Championship game last year is now in New England.
Dan Fates, who is on his way to Syracuse. We'll set you up for that here in a little bit. Dan Fates, Buffalo Plus, 13 whammers. Our guest, by the way, the Mets did lose, Dan. So,
darn.
Yeah, first time since 2024, July 2024, they've lost home games on back-to-back days. Just saying that, Dan. The Braves can't say that.
How's Soto doing? Is he happy?
He hit 2 home runs today.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah.
So he's happy. Actually, he's happy. The Mets lost. Soto's happy.
Look, you're our guest. I aim to please you. All right, I'm mentioning that. Dan, and we did have Jeremy White on our show yesterday, and he's a good sport about this, and I would say he handled that situation as well as you could, asking follow-up questions, not getting flustered. Yep. Is part of the story there Brandon Beane coming in hot? To me, correct me if I'm wrong, that's unprecedented. I can't remember Beane actually, whether that's in a press conference setting or somewhere else, going off like that, which I can certainly respect, and I think any Bills fan can kind of respect. But what does that tell you? Is he under a little bit of pressure? Is that more the Brandon Beane that who he really is, and then we're just haven't been exposed to that to this point?
I think pressure's mounting amongst the entire front office and coaching staff because the Bills have been so close but haven't gotten over the finish line. I think that's natural to think. I also see Beane's side. Like, I see both sides. Like, I'm team wide receiver. They need to address it. They need to invest more into it, all of those things. But I understand Beane being like, we've won 5 straight division titles. Like, come on, guys. Like, give me a break. It's also sports talk radio, and they need to – you guys need to fill time. So – I was surprised by the question wasn't some gotcha question like, oh, I've been talking about doing all of these things, and it was, how was the weekend? And he just kind of went right off. That was a little bit surprising to me. And while he was very true about the Bills leading the league in points, Bean right now is leading GMs in podcasts and radio appearances. He is everywhere. And it's a little bit of him defending his case, defending his guys, which I expect a GM to do. And they may believe more in Dalton Kincaid than you and I do, Gene, and they may have more hopes and expectations for Keon Coleman than you and I do. And that's fine. But it is a little weird to say, like, we're fine at the position and then sign somebody a few days later. I guess I see that a little bit strange. And the only thing I didn't really like about Bean's fieriness is to talk about last year. Because, Gene, when we go to St. John Fisher and we'll talk about how do you rebuild and how do you get ready for this season, Sean McDermott and Brandon Bean are usually always saying, you got to turn the page. You start over.
Yeah.
I always remember talking to Seth Apper, and when they were in the Eastern Division Finals, the conference finals, and I talked to him the next year, and he's like, you don't get to start at the summit again. You have to start all the way down at the bottom. So saying what you did last year, I don't really care, because you have to do it all over again. Just because what you did last year doesn't mean this is what's going to happen this year. And did you do enough to address it when you lost 2 wide receivers and have only brought in 1? So that's the only again, I respect Bean. I think he's phenomenal. The way that he manipulates the salary cap, drafting Josh Allen, his bugaboo right now is just drafting defensive line. You hope you've kind of remedied that this year. But this thought of, look at what we did last year, guys, we're fine, is a little bit like, icky to me, to be like, hey, Josh and the Bills offense had like the fewest turnovers, and that usually balances out. Like, there's turnover luck, and sometimes the ball, you fumble it and it bounces right back up into your gut, and other times it hits a blade of grass and falls right into the defensive end. Like, so that is a little bit of a concern of mine, because last year, remember I was saying that Keon's going to be great and Dalton's going to take a step forward. Well, 6 games into the season, they still felt the need that they needed to make a trade to improve their offense. So it didn't work out for 6 games, and then you had to make a move and invest more draft capital in a guy that didn't really pan out all that much in Amari Cooper.
Yeah, last one on Bean here. We learned that he keeps receipts, starting off with like, hey, this is 2018 all over again. Hey, Dan, I might as well put my receipt on the table. I didn't think Josh Allen was going to turn it around. Honestly, you got to make sure that, there are receipts on Buffalo Plus there that Bean can go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I always thought that I gave Jeremy, when he was on our podcast, I gave him a ton of credit, because Bean said it was one of the dumbest takes you could have. I said, I've told Brandon Bean to his face on Mike's patio that I think the salary cap isn't real, and he didn't tell me that was one of the dumbest takes he's ever heard. So Jeremy topped me in that sense. But yeah, like Bean has that trump card. Bean has the Josh Allen card. There's no question about it. And all I'm saying is that there's no perfect prospect. There's no perfect player. It's an imperfect science. I tweeted out yesterday. I've seen 2 different analysts talk about Dorian Strong. One guy said he's going to play for the Bills. He's phenomenal. All these things at Virginia Tech. He goes, but he's not a really good man corner. And then I heard Greg Cosell on One Bills Live say that somebody at Virginia Tech told him that he's the best press man corner he's ever been around. Like, it's the same player. They're talking about the same exact thing. Like, that's what this draft analyst is about. So I understand, Gene, that fans right now are in the honeymoon phase. Every draft pick is a steal. Every guy is awesome. All I'm trying to do is, my job is to say, hey, by the way, Maxwell Harrison is kind of small and he doesn't tackle well. And that's slightly a concern. And that's not just my concern. Bean said that after he drafted him. He may get big boyed at times. He has to stay healthy. He needs to add weight. Those are all the concerns that I stressed. And again, it's tough, I guess, at times to kind of criticize your new pick again before he steps on the field. I hope Harrison's great. You're adding speed to a defense that is very much needed.
Yeah, and if he's not, well, you drafted 2 other corners. Again, different skill set, everything else. Dan Fates, 13 Wham, Buffalo Plus is our guest. Sticking with the Bills here, and again, we're still, weeks, months away from Fisher, but as far as what positional battles, camp battles, what position group right now do you find the most interesting in terms of battles for jobs, Dan?
Well, it's probably the two key ones. It's the defensive line. Like, I wonder where Dwayne Carter fits in all this, because I think we were going into the draft saying they could draft a safety. I talked last week about, maybe it's Malachi Starks, and what does that mean for DeMar Hamlin or Taylor Rapp or some of those things. Well, they didn't draft a safety. So it's sometimes it's trust their words, but then it's also follow their money and what they're investing in. They invested in a lot in the defensive line and bigger guys, better penetrators, things like that. And, Dwayne Carter, they said, would kind of rotate behind Daquan Jones. Well, I'm wondering if Daquan Jones is the starter, or where is Daquan Jones in? So where does that put Dwayne Carter, a guy that you traded or that you got the pick in for the Xavier Worthy trade? Where does he fit in? So that's kind of the interesting thing for me is the D-line. And as we talked about, the wide receivers, like there's a lot of guys that seemingly do a lot of the same things, and some have bigger contracts than others. So are they worried about Samuel's health? I also still think, like, what about Tyrell Shavers? Like, he's another guy that was on the practice squad. Like, there's going to be, like there is every year, and we will talk about it, and fans will be passionate about it, who's that fifth and sixth wide receiver when the Bills leave St. John Fisher.
Yeah, Dan Fates, 13 Wham Buffalo Plus is our guest here as Dan is on his way to Syracuse. The Buffalo Bills wrapping up their draft, and we got a lot to talk about. One more thing on the draft here, Dan, because I'd be remiss if I didn't get your take, and there are so many takes out there, right, about what happened with Shedeur Sanders, and I just like to point out just kind of one of the obvious, and I'll let you go from there. But I don't know if we've ever had a bigger disconnect between what NFL personnel people think of a prospect and what the draftnik community and public think of one. I mean, that's the storyline here. I don't know if we're ever going to get a guy that, hey, he's going to go number 2 overall. No, he's not. He's going to go in the 5th round. Your thoughts on what happened to Shedeur Sanders here and what could be next year for Cleveland?
Well, it's funny talking about that, Danger. It's like the polls were wrong, right? It's like, well, how were they so wrong? I go back to, look, I thought Peter Schrager was great. Now he's on ESPN, but he was talking about it. Like, I understand that people may have had a first-round grade on Shedeur, but there wasn't necessarily a team that was going to pick him in the top 5, like Dion said he would. And then once you got past that, who was going to want to put up with everything that came along with it as a backup quarterback? The media circus, the Deion son kind of going along with all of those things. And he doesn't have a big arm. He's not super mobile. So you had to do all of the intangibles, the little things better. And I don't think he was interested in showcasing his intangibles. And there were questions about his character. I'm not saying he's a bad kid. I'm not saying he's a good kid, but there were question marks about the circus and putting up with that. It's like when the Eagles brought in Tebow to be the third quarterback. Well, it didn't work out because the third quarterback isn't supposed to be getting asked to do interviews and sit downs. Like that's how this works. So I think that was part of it. It also just comes down to the fact, Gene, that you can have character flaws and the NFL can overlook a lot of things, but when push comes to shove, talent usually and what you do on the field overlooks it. And they didn't think his talent was good enough.
It's pretty much as simple as that, right? And again, he's going to have a chance to prove himself, so that's why we're going to be tuning in a lot of preseason there, Dan. Dan, your quick thought, last one here on the Amherst here tonight, going into Syracuse. The last 2 times these teams have met, they've gone the distance here. I mean, to me, the number one key is, okay, can you get to the end of 20 and just either be ahead or at least tied? The first 10 minutes, I would imagine Syracuse is going to throw everything at Rochester.
Yeah, I caught up with Mike Leone earlier this week, and I loved his mindset of, like, we're treating this just like anything else. And you kind of go, like, well, what do you mean by that? And he's like, we treated – his saying to me was just go out and play, and that's it. Like, don't make this bigger than it needs to be. We treat this like it's a Wednesday night game in January. And you kind of go, like, well, that's dismissive. And he's like, but that's how we play a Wednesday night game in January. Like, we go in there with that mentality of we're going to be the better team, and these are the expectations. And so I like that. He understands the desperation that Syracuse will have. They will be a desperate team. They're not as good on paper as the Amherst are. The Amherst are so much better on paper. They may be the best team in the Calder Cup playoffs on paper. Their power play, their penalty kill, it's riddled with NHL talent. They don't play the games on paper. So there will be a desperate team. Syracuse is going to want to try and drag Rochester down and be physical and turn this into a chippy game. But when push comes to shove, it's just the fact of that one team's clearly better, in my opinion, in this game, in this series.
Dan, what are you and Jenna and Mike working on? 13 Wham we can check out tonight, and tell us about Buffalo Plus. What's coming up here?
Yeah, we did a podcast on Monday, like you said, with Jeremy White, getting his instant reaction to that, breaking down obviously more of the draft, the wide receivers. Mike and Jenna did a You Ask, We Answer segment on the whole draft moving forward. Also, Jenna's on the phone right now with Mike. Mike wanted me to let you know that the Mets lost. I just want that. I think that it's my journalistic integrity. I'm just relaying information.
Okay, then remind Mike that the Phillies actually got swept by the Mets. I was thinking of sending you a cookie cake. You lost to the Rockies.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? We're not a good team. What do you want me to say, Gene?
Well, come on over. That's what I'm saying. We're the fun fan base here, Dan.
Yeah, sure.
Dan, I know you're on your way. Be safe. Really appreciate your time today, bud.
Thanks, guys. Always go Braves.
The best.
I love how when somebody hangs up, you hear that little boop.
Science.
That's it.
That was he's fun.
He is fun.
I like me some Dan Fates.
We're gonna stick with the Amerks theme.
I like this guy too.
Yeah, Andrew Mossbrooks, who, oh my gosh, what am I inviting? A Braves fan? He's a Phillies fan. Yeah, Phillies honk coming in, but he's going to be on the call tonight with Don. And, yeah, let's have some fun here. This is the team that everybody can get behind in Rochester, the Amerks. Let's get to round two. Andrew Mossbrooks joining us next. In for Danger, he is Tim Schneider. I'm Battaglia here on The Fan. The wait is over. Amherst hockey tonight. A chance to advance to the divisional final. Syracuse is going to be a tough opponent. Amherst up 2-0. Head coach Mike Leone knows it's going to be a tough atmosphere.
I don't expect anything different. Great crowd, really tough arena to play in. We know what's at stake, so we just got to be ready to go when the puck drops.
Don Stevens, Andrew Mossbrooks will have your call 7 o'clock here tonight on The Fan. We'll talk to Andrew. Go live to Syracuse coming up next here in the Sports Bar. On the Major League scoreboard, the Mets in front of Mike Danger, falling at home to the Diamondbacks 4-2. Cubs over the Pirates 8-3. Royals knocking off the Rays by an 8-2 score. Twins and Guardians in a rain delay, 2-2 there in the 8th. Reds over the Cardinals 8-1. They're also in the 8th inning. Red Wings today losing to Lehigh Valley 8-1. Gene Battaglia, The Fan, Rochester. Tell you what, if there's one thing that you in Rochester can get on the edge of your seat for listening on the radio or online, it's certainly Amherst hockey. As tonight, Andrew Mossbrooks, along with Don Stevens, bring you the action. Andrew just arriving in Syracuse just a little bit. Andrew, how are you today? I think we have Andrew.
Yeah, you do. Sorry, I think I got thrown off by hearing, I think it was Luke Harper's theme song for a moment.
It was. It was indeed.
Yeah, Tim's bumping. Yeah, Schneider is a terrible take, Timmy, by the way. So wish me luck here today, Andrew.
My takes.
No, I just said Tim and I have talked about this, both being wrestling fans. So he plays a version of this guy's theme song every night that we're on the broadcast. So I was a little taken aback there. I didn't know if there was a tech issue or not. I appreciate the nod, Tim.
I saw Andrew. This is the high IQ, the things that Tim does for us. I don't even realize half the time. Andrew, what is this going to be like the first 10 minutes? A team that is facing elimination here tonight. What can we expect in terms of an atmosphere and how Syracuse is going to come out?
I mean, I think it has to be the best first 10 minutes for Syracuse in this series. At least it's got to be the effort they're going to look to put forth. They just got Max Crozier back from the Tampa Bay Lightning, which for a moment we thought he would not be here. He was recalled to play for the Lightning in Game 5 against Florida in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Lightning are out, though, now. So with Tampa gone, not only did Crozier come back to Syracuse, but Connor Geekie is here as well. So they've got a couple of talented players back in their lineup. I think this first 10 minutes are going to be very, very physical. We saw how Game 2 took place in Rochester. It was pandemonium, a lot of chaos, a lot of chippiness, a lot of dirty play. I think realistically both sides engaged in it. But the Amherst have to be ready here. They need to give it their all because either of these teams, by the way, if either of these teams take your foot off the gas for 10 minutes, you could be a couple goals down and fighting up an uphill battle.
Yeah, as every Tuesday, we're joined by head coach Mike Leone. And going back and getting your thoughts here on Game 1 because we asked him a question, all right, what did you say? What turned it around? And he's actually like, no, we actually are playing pretty well, and it's just kind of hockey, guys. Sometimes you find yourselves down. But I think the story there is nobody really panicked. And to me, Game 1 setting the tone the way it did, Andrew, what were your thoughts on that for Rochester?
I think that's kind of the MO they've had all season. Like, there hasn't really been a lot of situations where all of a sudden defensemen are pinching and forwards are taking risks and not back-checking and they're kind of going all in on offense. Like, I don't think you've seen that really almost at any point this year. It's not to say the Amherst haven't had a couple of bad games. Every team does, regardless of where they finish at the end of the year. But this team's ability to remain composed on the bench in any game, in all games, in all situations. Like you said they're down 2-0 about 4 minutes into the second period of Game 1 with a couple of goals that I think, certainly the first one Levi would have liked to have back on Sherry. But, this team didn't make that 2-0 deficit bigger than what it is. So they were down 2-0 4 minutes in. Another 4 minutes passed. They were tied. And by the way, that second goal that Dylan Duke ended up scoring for the Crunch is the last one they put in the back of the net. Levi's gone over 96 minutes without letting a goal in. So that even goes back to the first 10 minutes of tonight's game that you're talking about, Gene, is Syracuse, they're going to be desperate. They just want to see that puck go in the back of the net again since it's been so long.
Yeah, tonight's game in Syracuse, again, Don Stevens will be on the play-by-play. Andrew Mossbrooks providing analysis, as he always does. Andrew giving us a few minutes here today in the sports bar. Andrew, this is on the road, but the Amherst have had success in this building this year. What are the reasons you can point to that success for?
Well, I mean, yeah, and the success to statistically speak it out, they won 4 of 6 games. They picked up points in 5 of the 6 that they were playing here during the regular season. And, yeah, I think the success comes from, in part, the Amerks fans. And, yes, we are on the road. It is Upstate Medical University Arena in Syracuse, but Amerks fans attend this venue in droves. They are some of the most loyal, most well-traveled fans in the AHL. So where they typically tend to seat themselves is right around the tunnel that the players come out so they can hear the noise. And I think the Amerks are just a really good road hockey team. I mean, if you look, I know we're talking Syracuse specifically, but if you just look across the season, I mean, this was one of the better finishes this team had in franchise history. It's top 7 all-time finish in franchise history in terms of road wins during the regular season. So they've had the ability, which I think is something they've shown in, as you said, not just this year, but in recent seasons too. I mean, especially now, you talk the playoffs. Last year, Game 4 in this building, down 3-0 going into the third. Amerks come back and win it in overtime. Brett Murray scores that goal. 2 years earlier, Game 5, they're down, tie it, go to overtime, do or die. Lawrence Pilot scores. Amerks move on to the next round. So they've had some epic moments in this building. They haven't only had success here in the regular season. They've gotten the job done in playoffs before, and they have an opportunity to do it again here tonight.
Yeah, and the thing I remember about, well, many things I remember about that Game 5, listening along, but you could hear the Amerks fans, and I remember just kind of how Amerks players from 2 years ago taught, or last year as well, you mentioned the tunnel, but how they could hear the Amerks fans. Tonight's a Thursday night, so you're there. It's still early, but do you get a sense that we're going to have a good showing there in the On Center?
Yeah. I can tell you, attendance-wise, it's looking pretty good tonight. I don't think it'll be a sellout, like you said. It's a Thursday. It is still early in the playoffs, but they're going to have a good crowd. They tend to always do really well here. And, again, our fans are going to make up a part of that. So, like you were talking about last year, I remember Brett Murray actually saying that they were in the locker room going into the third, and you could hear "Let's Go Amerks" and the foot stomping over top of them on the roof, and it just kind of, it drives you. It's that intangible of momentum. And I hope the Amerks still have it. They are up 2-0 in this series. But, I think we started this segment with you saying the wait is over and it's time for Game 3. And that's the thing, especially in this first round, or, well, technically second round of the AHL playoffs, is there's often such a long wait in between games that it can be difficult to carry momentum over. But I think this is a really confident group. They believe in the process that they put forth throughout the 72-game regular season. It found them additional success through that opening weekend of Calder Cup playoff action, and I think they're going to be ready to go, and I think their fans are going to help them too here tonight.
Frank writing in on X, Gene, I'm on the thruway heading to Salt City. Go Amerks. Frank, I hope you're not driving, or maybe it was voice to text, but thank you. Appreciate you listening that. Or maybe you were pulled over. Again, if anybody wants to reach out or handle the fan Rochester, as we're talking to Andrew Mossbrooks, who will be on the call tonight, and hopefully, for your sake, we just, we get this done in 3 periods, and we come back here, and you have some time here. Gosh, we can't really ask this question to Mike Leone, but I can ask it to you, Andrew. How does this lay out if the Amerks actually win this quickly? Because Laval and Cleveland, they just started last night.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it, Gene. So obviously, as you know, I can't tell you the dates because I don't know them. But I mean, internally, we're sitting here chatting, thinking the same thing. What if? Because you have to prepare, and this from a media side. We're sitting here preparing. Okay, if we win, here's what we do next. If we lose, here's what we do next. You have to have protocol in place from the front office side of things. But there's definitely chatter amongst us saying, if we win here, are we off for a week and a half? I mean, what is the timeline? Because if Laval and Cleveland go to 5 games, that takes them through next Friday. So at minimum, you're looking at 8 days there. They're not going to play the first game Saturday and go back-to-back nights from one series to the next. Sunday is Mother's Day, so I don't know if the league is going to put an X over that date and try to keep teams from starting the round then. So what are you looking at? Monday? I think that's May 12th, if I'm looking at the calendar, right? I mean, that's a realistic date. It is completely possible you go 11 days in between games. And, I talked about momentum trying to carry over from Sunday to Thursday here from games 2 and 3. I don't know. I don't know what the layout looks like. That's the best I can kind of forecast in terms of predicting. It's all speculation at this point. But, that's where the practice habits come in, and I'm sure, should Rochester advance through this round, I'm sure there would be a couple of days to get the rest. Certainly need it. Everybody's bodies are banged up at this point. These two games have been hellacious, but, it's going to require a lot of discipline, and teams do it all the time in the American Hockey League. It's nothing new. We've seen the Hershey Bears do it the last 2 years as well, where they end up motoring through teams, and then they wait a little bit, and then they come back to it, and they get ready. So if the Amerks are that championship caliber team that I think we all think they are, that could be a challenge. Rest is a weapon. It can also be a bit of adversity.
Yeah. Tonight we know of one change, Komarov in concussion protocol. And if you want to talk about that fight that didn't go his way, but is it going to be Brandstrom in the lineup tonight? Any other changes? And quite honestly, Andrew, I don't know the answer to this because I could be asking about lines and everything else and changes in the lineup. I know in college hockey you get the line charts in the like in the afternoon of the game, so I don't know. When are teams required to kind of set their lineup here in the AHL playoffs?
Yeah, so you know what, Gene, I can't give you the official ruling on that. Like when do they have to? I can tell you we have the lines for both teams right now.
Good.
There are a couple of changes. To your point, you are correct. Erik Brandstrom is going to come in place of Komarov. Really cool story for Brandstrom as well. He's a veteran. He's played almost 300 NHL games. If you factor in his American Hockey League service, this guy's played over 400 professional games in North America. But tonight's game number 1 for him in the playoffs. So that'll be a really cool experience. I'm sure he'll enjoy. We asked Michael Leone this earlier in the week, kind of got surprised, something sort of flying under the radar in Game 2, but Lukáš Rusek is going to be out. And it is out with an injury. It's undisclosed right now, so we're unaware of what the injury is. Anton Wahlberg, who was ill, dealing with a bit of sickness last weekend, he missed both those games. He is healthy. So he's going to pop in and take over on the wing. There are a couple of lineup changes. Those are the only two personnel-wise. Brandstrom and Wahlberg are in. Rusek and Komarov are out. Top 6 shifted around a little bit. You've still got the same 4 centers, but, the Amerks have 6 or 7 technically in their lineup. So at times, Yops is on the wing. Then he's taking faceoffs in the D zone. They've been a very shifty team. And then, of course, Levi's going to start. Sandstrom will back up. And then for Syracuse, I did mention that Crozier and Geekie are back. They are in the lineup, but Connor Sheary is out. And so he went out due to injury, twice left the bench in Game 2. This is Syracuse's leading point producer from the regular season. He's a 2-time Stanley Cup champion with the Pittsburgh Penguins back in the mid-2010s. So this is a piece of heavy artillery out of their lineup as well. We've talked about the physicality of this series. Neither side has left these games unscathed. So we'll see what these depletions and additions and substitutions look like on both ends in a couple of hours.
Great stuff, Andrew. And look, one of the reasons why there are a lot of reasons why people are excited about this team. You have some pieces out, but you can plug in a Brandstrom. You can plug in a Wahlberg. The depth on this team, Andrew, there's some other good teams in this league, but I would put up against anyone.
Yeah, I would agree with you, too. And here's the thing, Gene, is, keep in mind, it feels like forever ago now, but a couple months ago you had Victor Neuchev undergo season-ending surgery, so they haven't had him for a substantial period of time. He was a co-rookie of the year last year. This team raced to the finish line and still finished just a couple points out of first with the likes of Kulik not being here and Osland and Roseanne and Kozak, and, of course, they're all back. But throughout the entire year, this team has been battle-tested. There were times in Sunday's game where Rochester was down to 4 D-men because not only did Komarov leave during the second period, but Jack Rathbone had gotten banged up on a nasty hit. He missed a couple of shifts. I can say he is healthy. He will be in the lineup tonight. This team's resiliency, they've been challenged, and they have persevered from the start of the puck drop back in October. Leo often references, they were 1-3 to start the season, which really in a 72-game stretch is a very, very small sample size. But still, a little bit of adversity. They overcame it, and this team has bonded together all year. It's a group of brothers, not players down there. And tonight they have an opportunity to to get the job done and do something that the Rochester Americans have only done once in their history, last doing so in 1997, and that is sweep the Syracuse Crunch in a playoff series.
You and gosh, credit you, Warren and Ryan, everybody finding these stats here and everything. A couple more here for you, Andrew. Okay, get outside of the ordinary. Score more goals. Power. Special teams, whatever. What's one thing you're looking for the Amherst? What do they have to do tonight to take this game?
I would stay out of the box. I think this has been a very emotional series, and my fear in that is that you can get sucked into it. And that is the MO of the Syracuse Crunch. They absolutely love getting they pick at underneath your fingernails, they get under your skin, they find ways to aggravate. And when that happens, and not to mention, I'm not saying it will happen. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a fight tonight or a big hit on Jack Finley for the knockout blow they delivered to Komarov, which, by the way, I mean, Finley, it's a gentleman's game at the end of the day. He was trying to protect Komarov as he was falling, if you watch back on the video, so it wasn't like he was doing – it's hard to say that he wasn't doing something out of malice when you guys were both punching each other in the face. But, I mean, it was part of the game. That doesn't mean the Amherst don't want him to answer to the bell. So the biggest thing that I don't want to see is this team end up in a spot where they're giving 5 or 6 power plays to a Crunch team that hasn't scored on the power play yet, but they do have weapons. They do have options. I mentioned Geeky being down. Derek Pouliot is an all-star defenseman who's gotten the job done all season long here. He did it before when he was on the West Coast. So to me, I think special teams are going to be huge, and it's on the opposite side of that pendulum. If Syracuse starts taking penalties, this could be game over. I think the Amherst are absolutely lethal on the power play. There is not a weakness anywhere on any of their 10 guys that they put out there for special teams. But to me, that's going to be the big one. Special teams can make or break this game 3.
Well, I hope it's a trip back here tonight, right after the game. And it is just you and Don on the call, correct, tonight, Andrew?
It is. Yep. Don and I are on the call. I know you mentioned Warren and Ryan. They're here. We have our video production team here as well. Jackie Peterson, Evan Michael, a ton of our front office crew here trying to help out, trying to provide media coverage, and doing everything we can. Those guys have just all been all-stars all season long. They are year in and year out for us, and they certainly make my job and Don's job a hell of a lot easier, too.
Yeah, if you're a Rochester sports fan, it's Edge of Your Seat Radio tonight. Andrew Mossbrooks, buckle in. Don Stevens. Andrew, appreciate the time. Good luck tonight.
Of course. Thanks, Gene.
Thanks. Andrew Mossbrooks with Don Stevens tonight. That's Wahlberg in, Brandstrom in. I think they get this done, Tim.
I think they get it done as well. I think that just based on what happened over the 2 games in Rochester over the weekend, you cannot sit on that if you're Syracuse for 4 or 5 days wondering, how are we going to solve this guy? They can't. They can't, and they know that they can't, and they have to do it 3 consecutive games in a row in order to advance to the next round. I think Rochester punches Syracuse in the mouth tonight, possibly literally, and wrap this up in 3.
Yeah, I don't know if Syracuse will take this approach, but don't get into the goonery. Don't if there's cheap stuff, just let them take the penalty and go on the power play.
When they know their season is actually over, if the Amherst jump out to a big lead in the first period here, it could get real ugly real fast, and they need to keep their head and stay healthy, even with what could potentially be a 1.5, 2-week layoff here between series. Get it done tonight, rest up, recover, get everybody healthy and ready to go, and let's take this as far as we can go.
Yeah. We will have time for your calls, 866-4326, 866-4FAN. It's Gene Battaglia, Tim Schneider in today here on The Fan Rochester. Fun show we've had here today. Dan Fates, also Andrew Mossbrooks. And if you missed any part of it, 2 years ago, well, sorry. Now that no longer applies. You can just download the Odyssey app, and you can go back and listen to anything you might have missed. Up to 72 hours, as I joke with Danger. That's the app that will someday get either him or me or both of us fired.
I'm sure it's gotten somebody somewhere, for sure.
I'm sure. Like, everything is out there. There are receipts everywhere, so we all play by the same rules. One thing we haven't talked about in the show today, I'm very proud of this because, gosh, you'll hear Maggie Perloff tomorrow. Eisen, who's Mr. NFL, this was like his opening hour, which you heard on the Fan. The Lakers losing last night, and LeBron James, typical LeBron, not commenting on his future. He'll be back.
He'll be back.
Does anybody even give this a second thought? LeBron will tell you when his last year will be coming up, just so every stop along the way he can get the rocking chair or the frame photo or just the appreciation that he craves. So there is no chance LeBron James is walking away here, Tim. If the team was terrible, which they're not, they were the third seed. They have Luka Doncic. Maybe they get a big guy and can help out in that regard. It shouldn't be that complicated. Minnesota, they're the more physical team. That's why they won. Okay, Rudy Gobert got 20 rebounds. You know why? Because there was nobody there to rebound for the Lakers. Okay, LeBron 100% will be coming back next year.
He'll be back. He could probably go for another. He's still so good. Like he's 40 something and is still one of the. He's no longer the greatest of all time player, but he can adapt so well to this game, even the modern day version of it. He's still an all-star caliber player at this age. And to sidestep a little bit here, that's got to be so vindicating for Dallas to have them bow out because of defensive woes the minute they get rid of Luka. They did not get anything close to what they should have, but man, that's got to be a little bit of a feather in their cap.
Well, it's the old thing. Like when he went there, everybody said, well, that team's not going to play any defense. And then they get the third seed, and then we're shocked that they didn't play any defense.
I mean,
how does that
crazy
work?
How that works
How does that work?
Right? Like nobody saw this coming. I am surprised that it ended in 5 to a typically inferior team. But what I am excited about, a whole lot of clinch games today in both sports.
Yeah, we've got we got hockey, which we'll talk about coming up in shots. We've got NBA tonight. The Knicks with another shot. I'm just like, oh boy, they let these guys back in the door. You know that's going to go 7. To me, the West is still as fascinating as ever. I would assume Golden State's going to get that done in the end. But, and again, I'm a Knicks fan. Can we just hit the fast forward button to Cleveland and Boston? And yesterday when we talked him to our guy Spencer German, who is now doing radio in Cleveland, I just brought this up to him. Like, I was out there in 2016, and that was the year Cleveland won. And it was the open, and it was Cavs everywhere. And it was because of LeBron and the storyline. Everybody was completely bought in. They're like the second story to what the Browns are doing in the draft. I mean, has Cleveland ever had this good a team in the regular season, what the Cavs did this year, and yet the reaction's been like, meh.
Right, yeah, no, it's a football-starved city, and they deserve a winner so badly in the NFL. Take the one in the NBA instead and call it even, because I don't know if you're ever going to get one in the National Football League. This Cavs team is dangerous. They played the Heat. The Heat kind of stunk, but they can do some damage in this playoffs.
Now, that being said, I think Indiana will take 2. I'll say Cleveland in 6.
That'll be a series. I think you're selling yourself short on the Knicks and the Celtics. I think the Knicks match up well. Boston will definitely be the favorite, but I think if they get past Detroit, if they find a way to get over Detroit, which they're struggling with somehow, I think that'll be a good series for you. I think you might be pleasantly surprised.
Okay. I would say,
tell.
and again, do the Knicks get by Detroit? I just know that's going to go 7 in that regard. And then we've got 4 games tonight. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And the one I think we're all paying attention to, right? How many Leafs fans do you know? I know 2. Like
Two, yeah.
Yeah, there. You'd have to be like Browns fans are masochists. Sorry, you are.
Yeah.
But Leaf fans, like, this is potentially a new level of disaster that is brewing here.
If this plays out the way that we are tenting our fingers hoping that it does.
What, like
Good.
Mr. Burns?
Yes, exactly that.
Excellent.
If that goes the way that we want it to, I mean, come on.
Look,
it doesn't get any better.
We're just bystanders here, right? Like who listening right now is super passionate about any of these teams still left in the Stanley Cup playoffs? Chances are, oh, Gene, I hate hockey. Or, yeah, I really like hockey. I don't know what they play down in Buffalo, but I watch. But is there, like, give me people that, and I think this is going to end up killing the ratings too. Like, tell me teams that are still in the playoffs that you are passionate about. No one's passionate about Washington. No one's passionate about Edmonton. I'm sorry. You may like Connor McDavid and want him to do well, but you're not staying up to 1 a.m. watching that. Get out of here with that.
Find me one passionate Winnipeg Jets fan, and I'll find you somebody who doesn't exist. So
yeah, right. And like we said last time, Winnipeg is actually a smaller city than Rochester, so kudos to them that they have a major league team.
Yeah, locally speaking, you're not going to find many people that are dead set on Stanley Cup hockey outside of like just enjoying the sport. But if you are a passionate fan of one of these teams, how'd you get here and how'd that happen?
Yeah, I mean,
Colorado, maybe if you grew up in that era where like they moved from Quebec and they won the cup and you stayed with them, but that was 30 years ago.
No. Gosh, or you're rooting for a player, and I'm going to give you a player that, all right, RIT's Chris Tanev. Granted, he was only 1 year at RIT, but boy, what a year it was. Now he's still going. 15 years later, here he is with the Leafs in the postseason. It's still not getting me to root for the Leafs. Let's go Sens here, but we've got time for your calls. Happy hour coming up, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. You can write to us on X. The Fan Rochester is our handle. Danger is off today. He's Tim Schneider. I'm Gene Battaglia here on The Fan Rochester. The wait is over. It's Amerks hockey tonight. Game 3 in Syracuse. A win for Rochester, and they will advance to the divisional final to face the winner of the Laval-Cleveland series. Devin Levi says there aren't any secrets left between these two.
For that, like they know everything about us. We know everything about them. It's just, who's got better pre-scout. So it's been good. It's been fun. They obviously know we're a highly skilled team, and we know that they like generating second chances off of tips and rebounds and screens.
On the Major League scoreboard, the Diamondbacks over the Mets today by a 4-2 score. White Sox get a win 8-0 over the Brewers. Another final, the Cubs over the Pirates 8-3, Reds over the Cardinals 9-1. In progress, well, sort of. Rain delay in Cleveland 2-2. Twins and Guardians tied in the 8th. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester. Yeah, we're high-stepping into happy hour. Welcome back. Shamel also mentioned the Red Wings lost today. I guess get used to that, right? 6-23 on the season. But, again, we like you, Red Wings. The product's not on the diamond's not going to be very good, but you can have a good meal and have a good cold beverage out there. So,
Went a week or two ago. It was fun. Unfortunately, they got no hit, but
well, that's different, right?
First time I've ever seen one in person, so it was fun. But I wish that the
What
product matched the fun.
Okay, so what was the reaction of the home crowd when you're the ones getting no hit?
Honestly, the reaction was so subtle that I don't even know if people realize, because it was one of those ones where it was a doubleheader, so it was a 7-inning game, and it kind of just ends abruptly. And it was a combined no-hitter, so there wasn't really a whole lot of antics going on from the Worcester roster. It was like, all right, this game's over. We got 0 hits, and let's go see if we can't win the next one.
Got to change the board there. Everybody watching on YouTube, I had you listed as Mike Danger. Now you're Tim Schneider. Mike Danger today is at Citi Field, or was at Citi Field. As we mentioned, the update, 4-2. His seats were... like, okay, Odyssey has some good seats there for the Mets. Beautiful afternoon. And, unfortunately for us here in Rochester, it doesn't look like we're going to have beautiful afternoons here the next few days, but this is what we get in the month of May. Time for your calls here in Happy Hour, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. As I feel like, Tim, we're almost like an extended Amerks pregame show, and we're going to get to the point that we're going to have to go down to the arena. We've done that the last few years. Last year was actually in this round when the Amerks forced a Game 5. I don't want this to get to a Game 5, Tim. I want this to end tonight, preferably tonight. Don't want to even get to Saturday, much less May the 9th here. And this Amerks team, I keep saying this is the best roster that they've had during these last few years when we've had fun springs of hockey.
Yeah, the sooner this series gets done, the better, especially now that they're just literally possibly tonight away from doing it. This roster is so talented. It starts with Devin Levi. We've been saying it for years now. This team goes wherever he will take them, and he can take them to the very top. But that said, there's scorers on this team too now that are back from Buffalo. We'll see what happens with the injury to Rusek, but Roseanne, Kulik, Murray, not from Buffalo, but like all these guys can play. You insert Brandstrom, who's an offensive defenseman, in for Komarov, who's out with injury. There's some firepower in this lineup that most teams in the American Hockey League do not get to experience.
Yeah.
Plus, the best goalie in the league.
Yeah, Brandstrom was the trade deadline acquisition from Hartford and went to his first game. It was against Cleveland. It was one of those Wednesday night home games, and he scored twice. And that gives you an idea, like, okay, like he wasn't in the lineup, just how deep this lineup is. Komarov's still out after getting laid out. I don't expect there to be any vengeance or anything after that kind of happened.
No, that wasn't malicious.
No, it was just a hockey fight, and you lost the hockey fight, and then it wasn't anything dirty. And, I'm drawing the blank on the kid's name from Syracuse. Finley, thank you. Finley did the right thing, like made sure he was okay. And
yeah, you're not trying to kill him, you're trying to hurt him, and unfortunately it was injured instead of hurt.
Yeah, that was the case. So Komarov in concussion protocol. We talked a little bit about that. If you want to talk about, certainly the Bills still on the table, and it's been the fallout after the draft. Usually you get the draft, and how does this all kind of fit, and how could we adjust the roster? Tim, when we got off the air on Saturday and the draft is already wrapping up, I'm like, okay, it crossed my mind, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is like egregious. How did the Buffalo Bills not take a receiver before the 7th round? It wasn't until Brandon Beane took exception just to kind of bringing up that point. But then when you bring in an Elijah Moore, and I'm not ready to say Elijah Moore is this guy that's going to solve the problems. He's the 2025 version, get ready for this, of MVS. Not as a player, but as of all right, will this actually work in this Bills offense? Because I'll tell you what they paid him, they can easily move off of him.
Yeah, this is a move that was a depth play from a team that needs to add depth at this position. If he becomes something, it's awesome and it's affordable, and maybe you keep him around long term or longer term. If it doesn't, you wash your hands with it, you move on, and you plug and play the next one that you just keep until you find somebody. You're going to insert who knows what into that role and see where it takes you. And it's not a earth-shattering move. It's a nice depth complementary move, and it's just crazy that it happens 2 days after all of the saga from the other station.
Yeah, it just kind of like, to me, that if Brandon Beane doesn't bring that up in that fashion, are we really talking about the Bills' receiving core here the way we are? And man, I think the receiving core, it's just kind of very simple. We can debate about more. We can debate about what Josh Palmer brings, and that's kind of an interesting conversation. We can speculate on, will Shavers make the roster? Will Laviska Shenault make the roster? And that's all interesting. To me, it's very simple. If Dalton Kincaid takes a step forward, if Keon Coleman takes a step forward in years 3 and 2 respectively, then everything is kind of good. Tim, I would even say even if one of those two guys, let's say Coleman just kind of does this thing again, but then if Kincaid ends up being a top 10 tight end in this league, well, then look out.
Yeah, I agree with you, because the thing about fandom is no matter how good it is, we always want more. And no pun intended, I did not mean that at all.
No,
but,
I got you.
You've got Keon Coleman. You've got Khalil Shakir. You've got Dalton Kincaid. You want one more piece, but you've got 5 people that we can name that could become that piece, and it's still somehow not good enough. Like Josh Palmer could very easily be that guy. It's a complimentary, better than Mac Hollins probably, at least on paper coming into Buffalo. We lost Mac Hollins, and people are upset about it. Mac Hollins last year was okay.
Well, Mac Hollins was an A+ from the vibe standpoint.
Yes.
He was an A in terms of a blocker. I don't think that's Elijah Moore. And I don't know who that receiver is going to be. Somebody that, all right, I'm going to kind of lead the way there. But I'm not arguing with what the Bills decided not to do, which is, all right, yeah, we like you, but not at that number. Have fun in New England. That's, when Mac Hollins this time last year, no one was saying, ooh, that's the guy.
Right.
That's what's going to make this all fun. Like, there's going to be somebody that you're kind of, or maybe you're not even familiar with. That
right. Somebody comes
fall
in as an afterthought, or a guy trying to make the 53 that becomes a viable part of the offense. And it might be already somebody that's established here. Like, it could be just Keon Coleman making that leap. It could be Josh Palmer, who came in a while back and actually performs to expectation. If not, could it be Elijah Moore? It sure could. Could it be some practice squad player that actually busts his ass off in camp and gets an opportunity to perform and is able to execute in a way that he builds trust with Josh Allen and becomes the guy that we are trying to fill this? It's like a fourth or fifth option spot on this roster, offensive weapon wise, and because that's an opening, it's a glaring hole somehow.
Yeah, and you got to remember the identity of this offense. Even it's crazy with the league MVP. It still is the ground. It really is. It's James Cook along with Ray Davis, along with Ty Johnson. And part of that is having those guys also coming out of the backfield and catching balls and making sure that, and again, from left to right, there might be better offensive lines in this league, Philadelphia, some other places. But in this division, it's Buffalo, head and shoulders above everything else. And when was the last time, I don't know the answer to this question, that you went into the regular season, or check that, you went into just the spring practices, much less training camp, and you were completely confident in left to right. And you could say, well, it was last year, Gene. No. It was not last year. We were concerned, like, wait a second, you let go of Mitch Morse, and you're bringing over Connor McGovern, but then you're plugging in a new left guard, and does that really kind of make sense? And well, let me tell you something. It all worked out just fine. And maybe one of those guys gets hurt. That's people wonder, like, oh, well, you didn't. And Dan Fates brought this up. Like, last year, the offense really didn't turn the ball over. I also say this, too. You were pretty healthy on that side of the ball. That's also kind of, yes.
That's a vital part of success.
Yeah, the offensive, the offensive line was healthy. Shakir missed a few games, and yes, Keon Coleman, injured his wrist in that Miami game. But by and large, injuries didn't derail the Buffalo Bills season in 2024.
No, I think last year, and obviously that last loss is always going to be painful. Last year's season for the Buffalo Bills was probably over expectation.
Without a doubt.
So going in from last May 2024 to May 2025, the sky now is the limit. Last year it was we should still probably win the division. These guys don't know what they're talking about, and they were right. This year, it's if we even struggle within the division, something wrong happened. What was it? Let's not find out.
There is one thing you and I differ. So you and I, before we started doing radio things, I like to think we were friends here, and then you worked your way in. You've done a great job with that. When it comes to sports and the NFL specifically, there's one thing. Okay, Tim, let's see if we're on the same wavelength. And the answer is not, I cover the Bills, you're a Browns fan. That's not what I'm looking for. What's the one thing this time of year that you and I differ on? Go.
The schedule that is released in 2 weeks that has to be somehow a spectacle instead of just like, oh, here's your game. Sports fans, go figure out which game you're going to be traveling to. Get your buddies. Let's plot out a weekend. It's an 18-hour ordeal where we have to find week 1 through week 18 32 different ways. It's exhausting. And you love it. And I hate it.
That's a terrible take. How could you hate the schedule release? You were the only true football fan that can't appreciate this.
I think that some of the memes and some of the ways in which they are released are outstanding. I just wish that it was like organic and unique to like a certain team. It doesn't need to be a shield run endeavor where they're getting 4 hours or whatever it is on primetime ESPN to say not even when the games are, just like what week the games are. And that just doesn't do it for me. Outside of maybe like the international ones, those are cool, but we already mostly know those teams.
Well,
anyway.
Okay, so
it's fatigue, I think.
I always hate this, report on speculation because it's not really a report, it's speculation. There's a ton of speculation the Bills are going to play on Christmas Day. You don't mean to tell me that would perk your ears up like, oh, that's a little different here. Damn, am I actually going to go to the game?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Like it doesn't. I think that
terrible take.
In May, I'll analyze the schedule and I'll write on my little notepad, oh, the Browns are going to go 5-12 again. This might be how they do it, and that's it. Then I move on and I wait, and then I look at the schedule. I combine it or I compare it with the Cleveland Guardians schedule, and then my father and I will go out and try to make a week of it.
Okay, so there you go. Like, see, there is a reason, and a lot of people who kind of do that. And I want to say the Bills are on the Browns' schedule this year, or vice versa.
They are, yeah, in Buffalo.
Yeah, in Buffalo. So
don't think I'm going to get my dad to go out to that. I think he's pretty steadfast against visiting other teams, not just Buffalo.
Right.
He's a home game guy.
Well, it's not only that, but has it? I mean, I think it's gotten a little bit better, but if you're the opposing fan going into Buffalo, I mean, it was really, really bad. Really. And I would imagine it's not the best of experiences if you're a Patriot fan or the Jets fan or whatever.
Yeah, I don't have any. I mean, I also kind of behave a little different than most angry Browns fans because I know that they stink, so I'm over it. Like, if you want to be mean to me because of a sports team that I like, that's on you. But, like, it's not going to get me going. I don't have any negative fan experiences in my handful of Bills games that I've attended, but I have seen and heard that it isn't always the most pleasant of road team experiences. But I guess that just depends on
well,
who you hang around.
and it also depends on
And
like
that's everywhere. It's not
that
just
depends on the time of year too. If you get a nice October afternoon, if you get a bad winter day and people are throwing them back and they're just drinking to stay warm, then okay, for the wrong reasons. What I'm saying, you and I differ. I wish the schedule would release, not because I'm doing the show today without danger. I wish it was today. I wish it was like coming out. And I thought because we're still, 13 days away from this, they would give you the nugget. Here's who Philadelphia is opening against. Hey, the game in Ireland. Here's who the Steelers are playing. Again, speculation. Could that be Buffalo? We'll wait and see.
I wish that you had a camera on me after we left Three Heads and I went home and watched the draft when they came out to tease of the schedule release.
Oh, no.
I lost my mind. I freaked out.
That, Tim, I can't defend that because here's a story. Oh, okay. We're telling you what day we're going to tell the story.
That's where I lost it. That's where I just can't do it anymore.
It's a tease of a tease. And you know what? They're doing the same thing with the uniforms, too, if you notice this.
I noticed.
We have like these, oh my gosh, have you heard the Bills are going to get a third uniform? Nike rivalry. When's it coming out? Oh, we'll let you know. Oh, a tease.
A slow burn.
A slow burn. And then you guarantee the next thing. Well, we'll have this date in June as the release date. And the NFL, the suckers we are, they will win the news cycle. They will win the news cycle for the month of May. And when you think about that, May 14th, what are things that in real sports that'll be going on? Okay, that is going to be like the eve of the second major, the PGA Championship. Remember that? It was at Oak Hill 2 years ago. Well, we're not going to be talking about that. We're going to have the Stanley Cup play. We'll have the NBA conference. No. We'll have the Yankees. Nope. It will be just about a schedule.
Football. I don't know. I'd rather watch baseball start to finish that day than carve out 2 hours looking again how the Browns are going to go 5-12. It just
Dude, you are alone on that though.
I know that.
This is our appetite. If the Browns were actually good, it could
change my perspective. Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, you'd be like, oh my gosh, we got 2 Monday night games. Hey, look, we're on Thanksgiving. Like, it would be a whole new world.
It's possible.
And the thing I love about I love envisioning how the season might go. It's the one and only sport, Tim, where it does matter. It really does. If the Bills open against, and these are teams on their schedule, if they open up against the Bengals, followed by the Chiefs, followed by the Eagles, we're like, oh my gosh, what did the NFL do to them?
Find out if they're real quick.
Yeah, or do the Bills get the Patriots, the Saints, followed by the Falcons? Right, like chances are it's going to be balanced. They don't want to do that to Buffalo, but the opener certainly is something that I would kind of envision. It does matter who you play when you play them.
Are you going to spend Christmas with Santa Claus at the final Bills game at the Ralph?
Oh, I haven't brought this up at home yet. There are guys, and my kids are, I can say, grown. I mean, they're, one's 21, one's 18. So it's not like, hey, Christmas, with Santa is, those days. But I still think, yeah, it's going to be a tough one.
Not going to be easy. I mean, it'll be a story for the rest of your life, but it's not going to be easy if you have to do that as diehard sports fan with like family that is very young.
I think if they did it as the night game,
if you have season tickets, I think that's your only out. I paid for it. I got to be there. I got to go.
Oh, no. In this day and age, you flip them. Flip them, Tim.
No, I get that. But as somebody not raising a family, so maybe I'm off base. But if I've got a family and I'm trying to convince my significant other that I have to be in Buffalo for a football game instead of family Christmas.
No, that's a tough one. You know, right, family first, I think, on that. But I think that with the excitement of the team, they won't have any problems filling what again, the speculation is that would be the last regular season game, but then if this team doesn't win the division, like if they win the division, you know you're getting a playoff game, so it's one of those, okay, it's the last game, but really it's not the last game. Check back here in 3 weeks or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Our number 866-4FAN, 866-4326. We got shots coming up in the sports bar where we will it's an interesting night, right, Tim? All these games, 4 of them tonight in the NHL. Another injury in baseball to one of Mike Danger's favorites. And a law in North Carolina I didn't know actually existed. Like, if you break up a marriage, you could get sued. There's actually a law in the books where, like, well, how do you prove that? Why am I bringing this up? Don't worry.
Yeah, good to know, I guess.
No, this is a callback to a story like, oh yeah, that. It's a follow up, and man, if I'm the guy, yeah, suing here. Why not? Sue everybody. 866-4FAN, 866-4326. It's the Fan Rochester. Hockey tonight. Amherst in Syracuse. Rochester up 2-0 in the best of 5, a chance to advance the divisional final. Although head coach Mike Leone of the Amherst knows it's going to be a tough atmosphere.
I don't expect anything different. Great crowd, really tough arena to play in. We know what's at stake, so we just got to be ready to go when the puck drops.
Don Stevens and Andrew Mossbrooks will have the call tonight, beginning at 7 here on the Fan Rochester. Finals from the majors today in front of Mike Danger. The Mets falling to the Diamondbacks 4-2. Reds over the Guardians by a 9-1 score. Royals beating up the Rays 8-2. White Sox get a win 8-0 over the Brewers. In progress, sort of, right now. Twins and Guardians tied at 2 in the 8th. The Red Wings fall at home to Lehigh Valley 8-1. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, the Fan Rochester. Welcome back to the Sports Bar. We've got last call coming up if you want to get in for that at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Shots as we kind of jump around the world of sports. Tim, we all want Ottawa to win tonight, right?
Absolutely. Love me some chaos.
Yeah, the Sens are down 3-0, having won their last 2 against Toronto. The Leafs with another chance to close this one out at home tonight. A win by Ottawa. Can you imagine how tight everyone is going to be in Toronto for Game 7?
No, I can't. I do not know what happens if Ottawa actually pushes this to 7, because it will be an absolute nightmare to be a Maple Leafs fan. I can't imagine the pain. Just to get to Game 7 is painful.
Well,
to actually have to play and win the Game 7 is even worse, especially if they don't.
It was like 7-8 years ago. Toronto was up 3-1 against Boston, and just terrible collapse. And I remember when we were doing the trivia nights at the former place, and businessman from Canada, just kind of watching Leaf fans, just like, I expect that out of this team. That's when it kind of like the shoulders slump and everything. We talk about teams with droughts. For a city with the wealth, for a city with the passion of Toronto when it comes to that lousy team in that sport, and to be so bad at that, to have not connected in our lifetime, many of our lifetimes, I don't think we talk about that enough. That's kind of a loserish organization, Toronto.
Yeah, I think that if any year, at least in the last 30 years or so, this is as good as a team that they have had. And if they falter to an in-country rival that isn't really even a rival.
No, it's not. It's like you will have just as many Leafs fans there tonight. And I view Ottawa just as a pesky team. And funny how like Dylan Cousins all of a sudden looks like, hey, there's a totally different player playing for them. All their games tonight, by the way, that Leafs-Sens game, 7 o'clock on TBS. This might be the last night we get with 4 NHL playoff games, so enjoy it. Following Leafs Sens on that network, it's going to be Game 6, Dallas and Colorado. Stars up 3-2. 7:30 on ESPN, Vegas and Minnesota. The Golden Knights up 3-2. And that's followed by the always entertaining Oilers-Kings series, where it's Edmonton with a chance to close this one out on home ice. They're up 3-2.
Looking forward to all of them, while hopefully the Amherst are also clinching their own series.
Yes, absolutely. I love the Amherst. 9:30 tonight. Okay, thank you very much. We'll talk to you. Not sure when. Did you see this? The fan who fell out of the stands in Pittsburgh last night. This is at the Pirates game. Remains in critical condition. I do not suggest you go look at this. This is one of those videos that came across my feed. I'm like, whoa, this is scary. The fan going right over the railing, falling 21 feet right to the warning track. The incident is being treated as an accident by the authorities.
Yeah, that was a bummer. I'm scrolling and I saw a couple of things and it was captioned appropriately, but it's like, all right, I've seen this like 12 times now. Let's actually watch it. And it was like, yeah.
Right.
Maybe could have just kept scrolling.
Yeah, that's one that should have come with a warning. And when you see it, it's like, what happened? Did he have a heart attack? Because he's going down, and when he hits the ground, he's not bracing himself.
Yeah,
so something's off there.
I do not want to dive into speculation, but
it's
that
like,
was not.
No.
Like, it was an accident for sure, but like that was not. I don't know how to phrase it, but like something there was with intent.
No, we're going to get in trouble if we say that. No, we don't know anything. So that's the one story that this reminded me of. This was back with the Rangers when they were playing at the old stadium, where it's just a horrible story. The father and the son.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the father, leans over the railing
To grab a ball for his kid.
Grab his ball, falls over, but he's okay, and they bring him up. But while they're bringing him off, he has a heart attack. Like, oh. Well, if we get an update on that, we'll let you. And the thing that was like both managers last night shaken, like the Pirates manager, just like inconsolable. And
That's not something that you're supposed to see at your place of work.
No, it's like, and it happened during there was like an extra base hit too, which made the whole scene just very, very weird. Too bad Mike Danger isn't here today. We'd have fun with this one. Mike Trout is hurt again. The Angels outfielder trying to beat out a single when he might have stretched his knee too far. It's being termed right now as left knee soreness. Look, the reality for Trout is this. The end may be coming actually pretty rapidly. Trout just appeared in 29 games last season. He tore his meniscus, missed the rest of the year. This season, he was batting only 173.
If he could have stayed healthy through his prime years, I don't know how high he would have ascended up the greatest list, but even despite it, he's a Hall of Famer. Like, it's just a bummer.
Ooh.
It's just a bummer that he couldn't maintain that growth and health during his 30s.
Mike Trout career home runs. Because that is, okay, 387. 1,600 hits? 3 MVPs. That's the problem, Tim. Burn brightly, and then what?
He's a Hall of Famer. I mean, he might not be. He might not be the premier Cooperstown enshrinee that he should have been, but he's still finding a bust there in Cooperstown.
I cannot wait to share that take with Danger on Monday.
I've got a name tag now, so
Mike Danger, back on Monday. Knicks had a chance to get by the Pistons in Game 5. That didn't happen, so we're still doing this. It's back to Detroit for Game 6 tonight, 7:30 on TNT. That's going to be followed up by Game 6 of Denver and the LA Clippers. Denver with a chance to advance here. The Nuggets up 3-2.
Jokic is going to do what he needs to do, and he's going to get it done, and Aquinas product, Jalen Pickett's going to ride the coattails of it.
Jalen Pickett, I'm so pleased just to see what he's doing for this team and in that role. So, yeah, that's, if you don't have a favorite team, you can have favorite players and storylines. And if you don't have a favorite team in the NBA, root for Jalen Pickett, right? Remember the story, Tim, former NFL wide receiver and current broadcaster Steve Smith? Well, this wasn't good. He's having an affair with a member of the Baltimore Ravens marching band. The woman married. Yeah, and now Smith is facing a civil suit. The husband is suing him for $100,000. How? Well, in North Carolina, you can be sued under the alienation of affection law.
That sounds crazy.
The law allows a spouse to sue a third party for destroying a marriage. It's also known as the homewrecker law. In order for the lawsuit to be proven, the man must show there was genuine love in the relationship before Smith got involved. Or the woman, if it's the other way around.
This actually sounds like a movie, but like a comedy. So actually sitting through that and having to take it sincerely is going to be a chore for somebody.
Like it's a sitcom, right? Like the jilted husband, I'm going to sue, but then, the paralegal or the attorney, like they'll start their own. Right, it's a rom-com.
One must prove love, and you get your reward is $100,000.
Dude, like, this is like, look, this is North Carolina for you, but like that's also part of like, wait a second, like, prove love. They had 4 kids together. I think that would just be like, okay.
Why doesn't Steve Smith just hand the guy $100,000 and make this go away? Why now it's on the news?
Good question, Tim.
I don't.
Good question. Like you would think that, all right, like here you go, write the check and kind of move on.
Be done with it, move on,
done.
and now you're unless he also thinks that it's funny and
All right, so but then take this from like, and I don't know if he's an ex-husband or whatever the spurned husband here. Would you want to put this back in the news cycle? Would you want everybody to say, "Oh yeah, that's the guy who
Streisand effect"? No way.
No, like that's the guy who his wife left him for
Now
Steve
they're talking
Smith.
about me.
Yeah, like why? Yeah, I don't think. But the other thing, part of this too, is like, so I guess Smith is from North Carolina, but if she's from the Baltimore Ravens marching band and they're from Maryland, here's one thing I got to say. For Linda Holiday, Bill Belichick's ex, thank goodness that they weren't based in North Carolina.
We're not here to talk about this.
We're not. No, we're not gonna. We're not here to. No, no, we're not. It's a topic. The family doesn't feel. There's, by the way, and I didn't put this in. There's still so much fallout. It has become the gossipy of the gossipiest stories here when it comes to Jordan Hudson and Bill Belichick. You don't have to go very far. I don't think there's really a unique news angle today to this. CBS put out their statement. You have all these anonymous sources saying they're concerned for Bill. Today you had Gronk and Edelman on a podcast saying they support Jordan Hudson. To me, it's just like a lot of noise here, which is so ironic because Bill Belichick's whole career was about minimizing noise with the New England Patriots.
It's our very own sports-centered Rich Housewives of whatever series, and I am now scrolling Twitter at all times, seeing what kind of fun updates I can get from these kind of stories.
Yeah, how does this all play out?
Quietly at the end. But
Well, yeah, she'll be an influencer. She'll end up on a reality TV show.
way to
Bill,
create
just-
your own
yeah,
reality, though.
Bill,
Jeez.
just dump her at this point. Dump her. No, the closest to it advance the story was that Belichick's daughter-in-law said something snarky about Jordan online. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe the family is not all on board with this. If the son's wife, Belichick's son, I think it's Steve, if the wife said something. But anyhow, last call coming up, 866-4FAN, 866-4326 here on the Fan Rochester. Yankees made a small move here today. Welcome back to the Sports Bar. Mike Danger off today. Tim Schneider is alongside. Got time for your calls. You want to do this right now. 866-4FAN, 866-4326. That move, they picked up an outfielder off of waivers from the Braves, Brian De La Cruz. Don't get too excited. He was batting 191 for the Braves in 16 games. So De La Cruz going to Scranton. But to make the corresponding move, the Yankees shifting over Giancarlo Stanton to the 60-day injury list. Tendinitis in both elbows. And, for the 35-year-old Stanton, are you counting on anything this season, much less ever again at this point? Strange how, you could have tendinitis in both elbows.
Yeah, a month ago they were clamoring for his return, and then Ben Rice emerged, and it almost made it like, man, what are we going to do with Stanton? Because Ben Rice is playing. Stanton can't stay on the field. I think that they found themselves in a spot where it happened to just work out the way it needed to, and De La Cruz is probably also just a spot filler for the time being.
Yeah, Rice, Jason Dominguez, the Martian, certainly. Those are the, don't, at this point, yes, you're paying Stanton a lot of money, but
just pay him and call it.
Yeah, pay him and call it. No rush there. And I guess he took batting practice yesterday, but they're not even teasing a timeline for return. And if you're a Yankee fan, and the thing, following Stanton's whole career dating back to Miami, trust me to tell you, when he's hot, he's as hot as anybody in the game. The one year winning the MVP for the Marlins and tearing it up. And even last postseason for the Yankees, pretty good. But then,
yeah, if you can't stay healthy, then we don't have a spot for you.
Yeah.
But when you are healthy, please send the ball 800 feet to the moon in Cleveland, because that's what he does.
Yankees will be, they're off tonight. They'll be opening a series tomorrow night at home against the Tampa Bay Rays. As we mentioned, Danger, I think he had a good time judging by the photos he was sending me here today. So now he's going out for steaks and bourbon and having a man's night here today, so to speak.
That sounds maybe not as fun as what I'll be doing, but it does sound fun.
No, you are going to be running a broadcast that how many people that love sports in Rochester are going to be listening tonight?
Oh.
This is the game coming up 7 o'clock tonight. Don Stevens.
We've got a clinch game.
Yeah.
And Syracuse for the Rochester Americans. It doesn't get any better than that unless it's a round or two down the line, which would also be awesome.
Funny, you really can't ask this to the coach who brought up to Andrew, and it's you could be looking at 9 days off. That's
minimum.
Minimum.
Because the series, and I don't know if they can jump, if the other series ends at the same time, I don't think that they can just jump into game one. I think that those are mapped out, and that is. So
they could, Tim, go so what would be game 5? Well, for both series.
The 9th.
Yeah, it would be May 9th. And that's also true of Laval and Cleveland. So here's the thing. Laval's wrapping that up quick. If I would predict that game 1 would be Friday the 9th of Amerks Laval. I have no inside information on that, but then Andrew brought up a good point too. Game 2 then would be Mother's Day. Do you put a playoff game on Mother's Day?
I mean, that's going to get in the way of my plans of going to Good Smoke for the unlimited mimosas with my mom. But I mean, if I've got to work, I've got to work. She'll understand.
I think maybe we got to clarify. Mom gets a mimosa. I don't know if it's unlimited mimosas.
If she wants unlimited, I have to give her unlimited mimosas.
Okay, there we go. I don't want Brian, I'm covering your tracks for you, bud. Good point there, bud. Yes, we certainly appreciate Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub for their sponsorship here at the Sports Bar. But you're a good son there, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, she heard me say it last week, and I think she's going to hold me to it unless I have to work. So I don't know if I'll have to work or not, but I do know that I have plans for Mother's Day now.
There you go. Ooh, the music. Now, yesterday I botched hitting the post.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so now I don't have the teacher standing in front of me in danger. But I can tell you, coming up on the show tomorrow, we will be talking to our buddy Mike Magnatsky tomorrow, the Mutt Stack, as it's the Kentucky Derby on Saturday. So this is the one time a year where we get into horse racing. You want to win, we will talk to Mutt. We'll be talking to super agent Lee Steinberg. His thoughts on Shedeur Sanders, and could this all have been prevented had Sanders had representation. Lee Steinberg joining us in the sports bar tomorrow as well. Well, if you missed any part of the show, you can download the Odyssey app, go back and listen in time. Special thanks to Derek the Pizza Dude today. Special thanks, Megan, for the help on the graphics. And Tim, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow, my friend. JR Sport Brief coming up next. Yes, I hit the post. Have a good night, everyone.